Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto killed by Chidori. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto thrust his hand forward. The Rasengan was aimed straight for Sasuke's head. Sasuke's did the same, thrusting his Chidori forward, aiming for Naruto's heart. Naruto was going to hit first. He couldn't do it. In the last second he stooped the ball of swirling chakra and ended with just punching him in the face. Sasuke was not a chicken. He rammed the Chidori straight through Naruto's chest cavity and ripped apart his heart. Naruto made no sound as he fell to the ground. In that instant all of Sasuke's hate, all of his rage, every bad emotion that had been going through his mind was gone. He fell to his knees and stared at the lifeless form of the 12-year-old blonde who he had once considered a brother. Tears began to well up in his eyes. He had killed his best friend. He couldn't contain himself anymore. Tears streamed down his face. He couldn't believe what he had done. Naruto, wake up! Sasuke yelled. You're not dead, so just wake up. Please Naruto, I'm sorry, please wake up. Kakashi burst through the tree line. He gasped when he saw Sasuke kneeling over the corpse of Naruto. What have you done? Sasuke, what have you done? Kakashi yelled. I didn't mean to, Sasuke wailed. I really didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Kakashi said nothing as he slung the lifeless form of Naruto over his shoulder. He then glared at Sasuke. You're coming with me back to Konoha where you will face your punishment. With that said, Kakashi and Sasuke jumped up into the trees and began to head towards Konoha. Look what you've gone and done, stupid kid. You've got yourself killed. I knew it. I knew getting sealed in you would be the end of me, roared Kyuubi. Naruto sat up. The water around his legs was an eerie red. Shut up, furball, I don't need you talking. Wait, I'm dead. No shit, genius. And now that you're dead, I'm dead too, so thank you very much, Kyuubi said sarcastically. Wait, if I'm dead how I can be talking to you? Kyuubi walked right up to the bars. The last of your life is draining away, in a few seconds you'll be dead, but here in your mindscape it'll feel like hours. So you may as well get comfortable. Welcome to the last 3 hours of your life. Please, you're Kyuubi no Yoko, the nine-tailed demon fox, strongest demon lord ever to exist. There has to be something you can do. Kyuubi laughed. There is something I could do. You know what, doesn't matter, you wouldn't be interested, Kyuubi said as she turned her head and walked back towards the back of her cell. No please, I'll do anything, anything. I want live, there are things I still have to do. Kyuubi smiled, the kid was so easy to fool. I think I might be able to pull you through all this if you remove the seal. If these bars are gone then I can heal you. Naruto didn't know that much about sealing, but the little he did know was that Kyuubi was bad and the seal was there for a reason. Naruto tossed the idea around in his head for a while. If I remove the seal, what happens? I get to keep living and so do you. That's it, I can use my chakra to heal you. You can continue to live your pathetic life and I can continue to live my pathetic life in you. Just rip the seal off and you can bypass the light at the end of the tunnel. Naruto sighed. He knew he'd regret this but the promise of life was too tempting. He ran up to the bars, ripped off the seal. The bars vanished in a puff of smoke. Kyuubi smiled a toothy grin. You're so gullible, you know that, kid. Now why don't you get some sleep while I fix you up? Naruto was laid out on Tsunade's table while Tsunade stared at the body of the child she once thought of as her Otuto. Tears silently ran down her face as she mourned. After 5 minutes of staring at Naruto, she turned to glare at Sasuke. You did this, you little shit, you killed him. She lunged towards the blubbering form of Sasuke. If it wasn't for Jiraiya and the Anbu present in the room, Tsunade would have torn Sasuke apart. Jiraiya and the Anbu struggled to hold the raging form of Tsunade. I want to kill him too, Tsunade, but if you do all hell will rain down. He has the Sharingan and Konoha can't lose that. Tsunade was now in utter rage. The Sharingan, Naruto may have had the most powerful Kikii Genkai in the world and you're saying we have to preserve the bloody Sharingan. A bright red light filled the room, making everyone stop their fighting. Naruto's seal glowed as a crimson red chakra leaked out and fell onto the floor. The chakra had a mind of its own as took the form of a human being and then solidified. There, standing right in front of Tsunade's desk, was a beautiful woman with a slender body, perfect curves and blood-red hair and eyes. Most interesting about this woman was that she had a single bushy foxtail sprouting out the bottom of her back, two pointed fox ears poking up from the top of her head, and she had absolutely nothing on. Jiraiya's jaw hit the floor, and so would have Kakashi's if his mask had not been there to catch it. Tsunade looked shocked, and Sasuke was still terrified Tsunade would kill him. The naked red head looked around at each of them and then down at herself. She smirked when she realized why Jiraiya's nose was bleeding. With a snap of her fingers, more chakra arose and materialized to form a low-cut red dress. The now dressed woman continued to eye each of the shinobi. The woman tried to look serious but couldn't help but burst out laughing. "You all look like you've seen a ghost," the woman said, still laughing. Who are you?" Tsunade managed to stammer out. This made the woman chuckle lightly. "You know, for a Hokage you're not that bright, are you? If you stop and think for a second, it's pretty easy to figure out who I am. Let's see, I'm made out of a red chakra that came from the seal on the kit, and I have fox ears and a tail." "Have guessed yet? You can't be, you're sealed," Tsunade stammered. She then turned serious. "Kakashi, take Sasuke down to the dungeons." "He doesn't know, and nor should he." Kakashi nodded. He grabbed Sasuke and pulled him out of the room. "It's a shame the Uchiha had to leave. I wanted to thank him. After all, if it wasn't for him, then I wouldn't be here talking to you." "I'll kill you, Kyuubi," Tsunade roared as she thrust her fist forward. The fist went straight through Kyuubi and landed in a wall. Kyuubi laughed. "Very smart, Lady Hokage, trying to punch a chakra apparition. How could you possibly think that would work?" "What do you want, Kyuubi?" Jiraiya said gruffly, wiping away the blood from his nose. "I'm just here to discuss a few things with you and Tsunade. Why don't you dismiss these Anbu so we can talk in private?" "Not happening, Kyuubi. Anything you want me to hear they can hear," Tsunade said, pulling her fist from the wall. Kyuubi sighed. "I'm sure you'll change your mind. When I was in the kit there was something that always interested me, it was his blood. A very unique blood, such a special Kiki Genkai. I always wondered where he got it from." "Maybe it was. Anbu, you are dismissed, please leave us," Tsunade said, butting in. The Anbu filed out, leaving just the two Sannin, a demon lord, and the corpse of Konoha's #1 knucklehead ninja. Kyuubi smiled. "I thought you might change your mind. Now to discuss the fate of my former prison." As she said this, she placed a hand on Naruto's cheek. "I am able to take over Naruto's body, and I will use it to destroy this village if you do not give me what I want." "And what would a demon lord such as you want?" spat Tsunade. "I want your word. I want your word as the Hokage of Konoha that no matter what happens, no villager of Konoha will attack Naruto." "Do I have your word?" "You have it. I promise you as the Hokage of Konoha no villager will attack Uzumaki Naruto." "Now that that's done, why don't you answer me some questions? Why are you here? You should be sealed in Naruto, you shouldn't be here." "Yeah," Jiraiya chimed in. "Also, why are you human and why are you female?" Kyuubi chuckled lightly as she sat down on the Hokage's chair and put her feet up on the desk. "Just so you know, Jiraiya, females can be demon lords. It's not a job that's reserved just for the guys. As for why I'm human, it's because as long as I'm in this realm I appear as human. If I went to the demon realm, then I'd be in my fox form." Now for Tsunade's question. "The kid removed the seal that held me so I could heal him up, all good. Although now that the seal is gone I'm free. Well, I'll be free when it's finished." "What's it?" Jiraiya asked. "It is the transformation of Naruto, of course. You see, now I'm no longer the nine-tailed demon lord. I've passed on the title to Naruto. Over the next few days his body is going to be going through some major changes, and I'm not just talking about puberty." She laughed lightly as she said this. "He is the new nine-tailed demon lord. His chakra system is going to expand tenfold. I'm talking thousands of chakra points and chakra coils 10 times as big as the average Anbu captain. Then there's the physical changes. If he's going to be the nine-tailed fox, then he's going to have to grow 9 tails and become a fox. Poor kid, it'll hurt like nothing he's ever felt before." There was a touch of sympathy to her voice. "As the nine-tailed demon lord, he will be in charge of my old kingdom, the Kingdom of Nine. I don't envy him in the slightest. Running a demon kingdom is a pain in the fucking ass. I'm glad I'm out of the job. Anyway, if I were you, then I'd be locking the kid up in the deepest dungeon cell you got. When he begins the transformation, it's going to get violent. He'll kill anything that breathes. Now I think we've been talking long enough. My chakra is nearly gone." Kyuubi turned back into a reddish chakra and was sucked back into the seal. Jiraiya looked stunned. He turned his head to stare at Tsunade. "Okay, so what do we do now?" Naruto drowsily opened his eyes. He was alive, Kyuubi had done it. As he sat up he felt something heavy around his neck. He grabbed it with his hands. It was a large steel collar about 2 inches thick. Naruto had no time to figure out what was going on because he was immediately brought into a bone-crushing hug. "Naruto, you're alive, thank Inari," a voice said. Naruto managed to see who was hugging him. It was none other than Tsunade. She stepped back to give Naruto some room to breathe. "Ba-chan, never thought I'd be happy to see you. I can't believe I'm actually alive and here talking to you. Wait, hang on a minute. Where is here?" Naruto said this as he gazed upon the room he was in. It looked a lot like a cell. It was around 2 meters high, 3 meters wide and 3 meters long. The walls were made out of large gray blocks of stone and there were no windows. How do I put this? You're in the dungeon. You're going to need to stay here for a little while. Just until we have something organized." Naruto's mind now flooded with questions. Why am I here? What things need to be organized? What's with this collar? Then the most important question came to mind. Sasuke. What happened to Sasuke? A hint of anger flashed onto Tsunade's face at the sound of his name, although she remained calm. "Sasuke is currently being held in the dungeon. I'm sure the council will get him released by the end of the week. Now for you other questions. You're here just so we can keep an eye on you, to make sure you're healed up properly." She was cut off by a gasp from Naruto. He fell to the floor on his hands and knees. Red chakra dripped out of his seal just as it had before. The chakra again took on the form of Kyuubi. Kyuubi stretched her arms and yawned. "Glad to see you're alive, little kid. I was beginning to worry." She saw the shocked look on Naruto's face and thought it was a good idea to explain. "I'm Kyuubi, in case you were wondering. I'm still sealed within you, but I'm no longer confined to my prison. I can leave your body as a chakra apparition, but only for limited amounts of time. However, in about a week all that will change. I will be completely free of your body, and you will become the new 9-tailed fox. In short, everything your dear Hokage told you was a lie. You're being held here because when the transformation starts you'll generate enough chakra to rip this village apart. That's why you're in a cell with chakra-absorbing walls and wearing a chakra-absorbing collar." Quote, "The transformation begins when I start it. You will get all my power and all my responsibilities and I will finally be free of you. However, this metamorphosis is really going to change you both physically and mentally. Physically you'll become a lot stronger and turn into a fox. Mentally you'll gain all the jutsus I know and your chakra system will get bigger. All this is going to be pretty painful and you probably won't live through it. Either way I'm still free, so I don't really care. Now I had to wait until you regained consciousness before I started fusing my power with you. So the sooner you leave Hokage the sooner I can get free." Tsunade nodded dumbly before turning around. She walked up to Kyuubi and whispered in her ear. "If he dies as a result of this, then I'm going to make you wish you died along with him. Is that understood?" Kyuubi chuckled. "Whether he lives or dies is entirely up to him and how strong he is." Tsunade turned and stepped out the door. She looked back at Naruto and smiled before locking the door behind her. Kyuubi smiled evilly. "Let's begin." The two quietly sipped from their sake dishes. Neither had said word since the bottle had first been opened. Now it was nearly empty. Jiraiya let out a sigh as he watched Tsunade down yet another dish. She had over 10 dishes and he was only on his second. "Do you really think it's a good idea letting Kyuubi do this to Naruto? I know a lot about seals. You could have at least let me try and fix this." Tsunade began to refill her dish. "We can't do anything. This is Naruto's problem. He has to fix this one by himself and that's all there is to it. I just hope that no matter what happens Minato will forgive us. I know he would never have wanted this for Naruto. What are we going to do with Uchiha Sasuke? I think we ought go down there and get his side of the story. No matter what happens we have to release him. If the council doesn't force you to let him go then Naruto will. The brat risked his life to try and bring Sasuke back. He's not going to rest until Sasuke is cleared of all charges." Tsunade sighed. "I guess you're right, come on let's go." Naruto looked around. He was back in his mindscape, only it was different. There were hundreds of floating balls made of white light. In the middle of the room stood Kyuubi. She was in her fox form and had only one tail. What happened to this place?" Naruto stammered. "This is the end of your old life and the beginning of your new one. Each one of these orbs represents one of your chakra points." Kyuubi smiled as she took one of her claws and ran it straight through a ball of light. The ball exploded into sparks and fizzled away. Naruto fell to the ground in pain. It hurt like nothing he had ever felt before. That was one, Kyuubi said, still smiling. Now there's only 360 left. She cut through another one. That leaves 359. Naruto was finding it harder and harder to breathe. The pain was so intense, he wanted so badly lose consciousness but couldn't. The pain struck again, 358. This continued for hours. Kyuubi continued to rip the chakra points in half. Each one was more painful than the last. Naruto was in tears by the end of it. Kyuubi laughed as the last chakra point was destroyed. Okay, so that's all your chakra O points destroyed. Now your coils should be breaking too. Your entire chakra system is wrecked. Now your new chakra can start to replace your chakra network. If you thought me breaking your chakra points hurt, then this is going to be hell. Naruto was brought back out of his mindscape to his cell. He sat there for at least an hour feeling nothing. There was no pain, no torment, just nothingness. Chakra burst out of his seal to form Kyuubi in her human form. She bent down low to face Naruto. Naruto couldn't help but feel aroused at the sight. She gave Naruto a soft kiss on the cheek. Now the pain starts, my little demon lord, she said, whispering in his ear. Naruto's screams could be heard throughout the entire village. The demonic chakra pulsed through his entire body. Old chakra points were replaced, new ones were formed, and his chakra coils were stretched to their absolute max. As the demonic fox chakra coursed its way through his body, his muscles began to move and expand. His whole body's shape was changing. Naruto snarled in pain as his legs changed into those of a fox. A thick coating of golden yellow fur began to grow all over his body, as well as a shiny white on fur on his chest and belly. His face grew narrower and longer to form a snout. His teeth were replaced with dagger-like fangs. Paws no existed where his hands and feet had once been and now had razor-sharp claws sprouting out. He grew to be the size of large horse. Pointed fox ears emerged from the top of his head. It was nearly over, there was only one thing left to change. Naruto let out an ear-curdling howl of pain as 9 big bushy, white-tipped foxtails grew out of the base of Naruto's back. When the transformation was finished, Naruto shrunk down to the size of Foxkitling, no bigger than a small rabbit. As he shrunk in size, so did the collar around his neck, and his 9 tails merged together into one fluffy tail. The transformation had really taken a toll on Naruto's body, and he immediately fell asleep. Tsunade and Jiraiya walked over to the large iron door. Tsunade peered at the small dial next to the door. It showed that all chakra activity had stopped. She sighed as she unlocked the door. It swung open with loud creak. Jiraiya and Tsunade both gasped at what they saw. There, leaning against the wall, was Kyuubi. She was in her human form, although now she didn't have fox ears but still had her tail. She was wearing Naruto's clothes and cradled a small, sleeping gold kitsune. "Hey," she said lazily. "I was wondering when you guys would show up." "Where is Naruto?" demanded Tsunade. Kyuubi chuckled lightly. "This is Naruto," she said, holding up the foxkitling. "He's sleeping now, so if you mind not speaking so loudly, I'm sure he'd appreciate it." She placed Naruto in one of the pockets of his jacket she now wore. "Well, thanks for opening the door, I'll see you around." With that said, she got up and walked out. Tsunade and Jiraiya just stood there shocked. It was several moments later before they realized Kyuubi had left with Naruto. The two turned and ran after her. Kyuubi took Naruto back to his apartment. She made herself some instant ramen and then started watching television. As she ate, she slowly patted Naruto, who still remained asleep. The door flung open to reveal Tsunade and Jiraiya. The two stormed in and began yelling at Kyuubi. "Didn't I tell you guys to be quiet?" Kyuubi said casually. "Alright," Tsunade and Jiraiya said in unison. "We have questions and you're going to answer them, is that understood?" Kyuubi kept watching television but nodded in acknowledgement. "Why the fuck is Naruto a fox?" Tsunade roared. "Naruto is a fox because he's wearing a chakra-restricting collar. He needs chakra to transform back into his human form, just like he needs chakra to grow in size. With that collar on, Naruto will remain a harmless little kitling. Speaking of which, have you got the key for his collar?" Tsunade reached into her pocket and brought out a small silver key. She bent down low to unlock the collar. She had just put the key in the hole when Kyuubi pushed her away and snatched the key. "What the hell, Kyuubi?" Tsunade said, annoyed. "If he has all of his chakra when he wakes up, he'll kill us. Which reminds me." She got up and walked into the kitchen. She came back a few seconds later with a roll of duct tape. In only a few seconds she had taped both Naruto's front and back legs together as well as taping his snout shut. "There we go. Now when he wakes up he won't be able to claw us to death." "Are you sure this is really necessary?" Jiraiya asked, raising an eyebrow. Kyuubi laughed. "Trust me, when he wakes up he's just going to be one big fur ball of rage. If you insist that I take the tap off, then I should at least put him in a cage. However, I don't have a cage, so the tape has to stay." "Fine," Jiraiya said grumpily. "I was wondering, Kyuubi, what's with the outfit? What happened to the red dress?" Kyuubi smiled. "I'm free now. I'm no longer a chakra apparition, so I can no longer form clothes out of chakra. I figured since the kid no longer needed them I could wear them. They're a bit tight, but they'll do until I can find some real clothes." In only a second Tsunade had her hand around Kyuubi's neck and pinned up against the wall. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't kill you right now." Kyuubi let out a hollow chuckle. "Naruto is at the most delicate stage of his metamorphosis. I'm the only one who can bring him through this with his sanity. You kill me and you'll lose your precious little Otuto. Of course, if you want him to go insane, you can just snap my neck now." Quote. Tsunade loosened her grip but still kept the fire in her eyes. "As long as you're still useful, I'll let you live, but the moment you become more trouble than you're worth, I'll kill you." The three stopped their bickering. A low growl echoed through the room. Naruto was awake. The three stared at the bond-snarling fox. "Oh great," Kyuubi said sarcastically, "you've woken him up." She walked off into the kitchen muttering something about how annoying this was going to be. Tsunade and Jiraiya just stared on in shock. Naruto looked vicious. His crimson eyes had a look of terrible bloodlust in them. They were positive that if it hadn't been for the tape he would rip them apart. Kyuubi appeared a short time later holding a small kitchen knife. She bent down low and cut the tape off from around Naruto's mouth. He snapped his jaws viciously, trying to grab a chunk out of Kyuubi's face. Kyuubi took the knife and rammed it straight into her hand. She held Naruto's mouth open with one hand and dangled the bleeding hand over it. She let the blood drop into his mouth, and watched as he eagerly licked his lips, making sure he had gotten every bit of the fluid. She continued this until the bloodlust in Naruto's eyes faded. She took the knife again and cut through the tape around Naruto's legs. Naruto's got up and shook himself to get the feeling back. "So how do you feel, Kit? How the fuck do you think I feel? You turned me into a fucking kitsune. No, I saved your life. Anyway, stop your complaining. I know of hundreds of demons who wanted the title of a Nine Tails. You should feel honored you've got it." Quote. "Oh, I'm so fucking honored. Now I have to rule some pathetic little club of demons." Naruto was thrown up against the wall. The knife Kyuubi had used to cut his bonds was now placed along his neck. "Don't you ever insult the Kingdom of Nine again, or I'll kill you." Kyuubi spat with rage in her eyes. Naruto was stunned at what had just happened. Kyuubi slowly brought the knife away from his neck and the smile returned to her face. "Well, anyway, now that you're awake we can begin your training." Jiraiya coughed to get everyone's attention. "With all due respect, Kyuubi, I was training Naruto before this whole incident. I think I should continue to train him." Kyuubi still smiled. "Naruto, go wait for me at training ground 7. I need to have a private conversation these two Sanin." Naruto hated being treated like a child, but in a funny way he kind of liked it. He had never had parents and had never been treated like a child. Kyuubi spoke to him in an almost motherly fashion which Naruto loved, although he'd never let her know it. He picked himself up and walked out the door. Kyuubi watched as Naruto left and then locked the door behind him. "Alright, listen here, Jiraiya, you have no right to train him. I have all of Naruto's memories. Everything that has ever happened to him I know about. There are memories so bad he's managed to completely suppress them. That kid has gone through so much, it's no wonder he's been suffering from depression since he was 5. Nobody ever gave him leg up, no one ever helped him. Naruto needed someone, anyone to help him. Both of you could have been the person to help him. Where were you when he tried to kill himself 2 years ago, huh? You Tsunade were off gambling and you Jiraiya were off perving on women at bathhouses." Jiraiya and Tsunade were both shocked at what they had heard. They didn't know Naruto had tried to commit suicide, they had no idea things had gotten that bad. I took an interest in him. I trained him, Jiraiya blurted out, trying to convince himself of his innocence rather than Kyuubi or Tsunade. Kyuubi laughed. You only trained him because you knocked out his previous teacher, and you did a poor job of training him too. You never cared much. You are just like Kakashi. Kakashi only ever cared about that Uchiha. When Naruto begged him to train him, Kakashi pawned him off to some second-rate wanbei so he could train Sasuke. And you, Tsunade, if Naruto hadn't have saved your life, you never would have returned to Konoha. What gives you the right to train Naruto? Neither Jiraiya nor Tsunade said a word. That's what I thought, said Kyuubi. I think it will be best if I train him. Wait a second, said Tsunade. Naruto is a Konoha shinobi. I get to choose who trains him, and I think that we shouldn't ruin a good thing. Kakashi is bringing all his students forward and Jiraiya is doing his very best to aid Naruto. If that's what you honestly think, then I guess I can't go against a Hokage. However, I think we can come to a compromise. There is nobody in Konoha who knows about demonic chakra except for me. I'm the only one who can train Naruto in how to use his new chakra. Naruto can remain on Team 7, however Naruto has to be shown how to be a demon lord. He has a responsibility now, he must rule the Kingdom of Nine. Jiraiya, you should train Naruto in his Kikii Genkai, as you are the only one who knows anything about it. Hang on a second, Jiraiya said, waving his hands in front of himself. I don't anything about his power. Yes you do, Tsunade chimed in. You wear Minato's sensei, if anybody knows anything about his Kikii Genkai you do. Oh come on, Minato himself barely knew anything about it. The only thing he ever managed to do was Harashi no Jutsu. There is nothing I can do. Kyuubi didn't take this lightly. If you don't train Naruto in his Kikii Genkai, I gonna tell him everything. He'll know about you've known who his parents are and never told him. How you let him suffer when it should have been you taking care of him. How am I supposed to tell Naruto he has a Kikii Genkai without telling him who his parents are? Kyuubi smiled. You'll find a way, she said as she walked out the door. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go make sure Naruto is going okay. You know, cause I'm one of the only people in his life who cares about him. She slammed the door shut and left the two Sannin to their thoughts. Naruto scampered through the bustling streets of Konoha. He knew he had to move fast. If he lingered it would only cause trouble. Kitsunes weren't very well liked around town. He didn't get very far though. Someone accidentally kicked him while they were walking. He slid along the ground and into a wall. He felt a hand wrap around his tail and was soon lifted up. A young Chunin had him by the tail and was dangling him in the air about a meter from the ground. Hey guys, look what I found, he called out to a bunch of other Chunins. The others all crowded around. Naruto tried to bite the hand that held but missed. The Chunin didn't like this. He decided to grab him by the ears instead and swung him into a wall. What should we do with him? Said the Chunin holding him. Let's turn him into dinner, said one. Nah, we should skin him and turn him into a rug, said another. They continued their debating until they heard a loud coughing behind them. The group turned around to see a young girl of about 14 years of age. She had blood-red hair and slightly pointed teeth. She wore a pair of jeans and a loose-fitting orange t-shirt. Over the top she wore a large black cloak. I believe that's my Kitsune you're holding, the girl said. I'll have him back now please. The Chunins laughed. Finders keepers, we found him so we get to keep him. The girl sighed. So be it. She punched the Chunin in the face and grabbed the small quivering animal from him. She stuffed the Kitsune in her pocket and continued walking. The other Chunins just stared on in shock. They had seen firsthand just how strong a punch this girl was. The girl arrived at Training Ground 7 and pulled Naruto out of her pocket. Naruto coughed. That coat stinks, Kyuubi, did you get that from the dumpster or something? Kyuubi gave her trademark smile. I found it on the ground. I had to have something to cover up my tail. If anyone sees it then my cover's blown and I get chased out of town. Anyway, back to why we are here. I gonna take that collar off and you're going to transform back into your human form. She undid the collar and pocketed it. The chakras surged through Naruto's body. He instantly grew in size. He became as big as small horse but still had only one tail. Alright kid, you have your chakra back. You should be able to change back to your human form. I'm giving you 4 hours to do that. If you can't, I'll drag you into the village and let the villages do whatever they want to you. Time starts now. Naruto didn't know why, but somehow he knew Kyuubi's threat was serious. How the hell am I supposed to turn human again? Picture yourself as human. Visualize your human form and your chakras should the rest. Naruto sighed. He began concentrating. It happened almost instantly. His body twisted and contorted until it went back to its regular shape. Kyuubi was amazed that he had been able to do it so easily. It should have taken him hours to learn how to do it. Naruto looked down at himself and was overjoyed to see that he was back to normal. It was then that he realized he was completely naked. He gasped as he tried to cover himself up. Kyuubi laughed at this. Kid, I was sealed in you for 12 years. Everything you could see I could see. Trust me, I know what it looks like. She took off her coat and put it on Naruto, which he accepted graciously. Without her coat on, Kyuubi's tail could easily been seen, although this didn't seem to worry her. Now we will start on chakra control, but first let's get a proper look at you. You've changed a lot. It was true, he had changed. His entire body was now covered in lean muscle. He was no longer the scrawny dropout he used to be. The only thing that made him look like a fox was the slitted pupils that now rested in the middle of his bright blue eyes. There was one thing that did worry Naruto, and that was the massive seal that now covered his entire torso. It stretched over his entire chest and onto his biceps. It looked extremely intricate. Kyuubi, what is this? There was worry evident in his voice. Kyuubi laughed. That's been on you since you got the Nine Tails crown. It's a special seal I made myself. It has several purposes. The main purpose is that it restricts a massive amount of your chakra. Currently the seal restricts the equivalent of 8 tails worth of chakra. So you have 1 tail's worth of chakra to play around with. That's about the same as your average Anbu. The seal does a few other things, but at the moment they're not important. Now enough procrastinating, you will start chakra control exercises and keep doing them until I so. But I don't want to, Naruto whined. I know you don't want to, but you must, Kyuubi said in a kind voice. I was sealed in you as a human, so I know that as a human you were naturally affiliated with air nature chakra. But now that you're demon, you are naturally affiliated with every element. I will teach you to master every element, but first we will start with air. Now no more talking, let's start. Tsunade looked around the council chambers. She hated being here. She knew exactly why Danzo had called this meeting. It was so he could convince Tsunade to pardon Sasuke. She didn't like the idea but knew it had to be done. Danzo stood up and addressed the council. We are here today to address the future of Uchiha Sasuke. He has been charged with attempting to desert his village and the murder of a fellow shinobi. What is the council's decision of the punishment? What will be Uchiha Sasuke's fate? It was a tepamited murder, Tsunade said casually. Sasuke didn't kill Naruto, he just wounded him. Danzo looked puzzled. The report I read said that Sasuke skewered Naruto through the heart. He did, however with my healing jutsu Naruto was able to recover. Tsunade wasn't lying to make her healing jutsu seem more powerful, she was lying purely to cover for Kyuubi's work. The meeting went for over 3 hours. In the end it became apparent that Sasuke had to be released. He was pardoned on the grounds that the curse seal had forced him to attack Naruto and flee the village. Tsunade was given the task of informing Sasuke that he was now a free man. Sasuke leaned up against the wall of his cell. He knew he would be sentenced to death and soon an executioner would come and deliver his sentence. The last person he expected to see was Tsunade, so he was understandably surprised when she came down to visit him. You here to kill me, he said. He spoke as if he didn't care what happened to himself. Tsunade tossed a small scroll through the bars. It rolled along the ground and came to rest at Sasuke's feet. That is a Hokage's pardon, she said. All charges against you have been dropped. Sasuke took a quick look at the scroll before throwing it to the ground. I don't want to be free. I deserve to be in here. I killed him, because of me Naruto's dead. The way Sasuke was acting made Tsunade feel sympathy towards him but also aggravated her. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Naruto isn't dead and you didn't kill him. The curse seal made you do those things, so get over yourself and stop your sulking. Sasuke perked up at this news. Naruto's not dead. Yes, he's alive and recovering quite well. Now enough of this. Get out of here and go home. I don't want you in my dungeon anymore. There was an eerie darkness about the room. It chilled Orochimaru to the bones. Something about this place really scared him, although he still kept that smirk on his face. He walked down the corridor and into a large chamber. It was a circular shape with a large table at one end. There were 7 figures sitting along the table. Each figure was shrouded in a veil of darkness. "We are glad to see you have arrived, Orochimaru-sama," the 7 figures said in unison. Orochimaru had no idea where he was, but he didn't like it. All he could remember was going to sleep in his Suna hideout and then waking up here in this place. "Who are you and what do you want?" Orochimaru said casually, as if this kind of thing happened all the time. "We are the Origin." This time only a single voice spoke. "We are the ones who opened our eyes. We are trapped here, but with your help we can raise the palace." "I'm not helping you, I'm leaving," Orochimaru said as he turned and left. The figure in the middle stood up. "You can't leave until you agree to help us." He threw a folder to the ground. Orochimaru picked it up and eyed it. "We want you to bring us someone. Everything you need to know about him is in that folder. Once you have him you will seal him within a scroll and we will summon you back here. If you do this we will reward you with the prize of immortality." "What do you say, Orochimaru-sama?" Orochimaru smirked. "For immortality I'll do it, but know this, if I do not get my reward I'll kill all of you." The figures laughed. In a flash of light Orochimaru woke up back in his hideout. Could it all have been a dream? It wasn't. The folder the figure had given him lay right next to him on his bedside table. The job was on. He picked up the folder and began to read through it. He laughed when he saw who he had to seal. This was going to be easier than he thought. The chakra blades skimmed across the ground and sliced straight through the trees. The trees fell to the ground, sending a loud crash sound echoing through the forest. "Well done, kid. I told you'd get it eventually. Your skills are moving along very nicely. Arigato Kyuubi-sensei. I could not have done it without your help," Naruto said. "You are very welcome, young kid. Now let's go back home." Naruto was overjoyed to hear those words. He'd been out in the forest for nearly a week training. He was tired and in desperate need for rest. Kyuubi's training method was train then train some more and never have any time to rest. It got the job done, but it wasn't exactly fun. Now all Naruto looked forward to was a nice hot bath and some sleep. The two walked down the streets of Konoha. None of the villages paid them any attention. The two kept walking as if invisible until a voice echoed through the streets. "Naruto-kun." Naruto and Kyuubi both turned around to see a pink-haired Kanochi running towards them. Sakura ran right up and hugged Naruto. "Tsunade-sama told me you were out of the hospital. I've been looking everywhere for you. I can't believe you did it. You brought Sasuke back. Where have you been all this time?" "Sakura-chan, it's good to see you. I told you I'd bring him back, didn't I?" "Yeah, you did. Thanks, Naruto-kun. Waste of fucking time, I say," Kyuubi said, staring off at the sky. "And who are you?" Kyuubi laughed. "You can call me Q. I'm Naruto's personal trainer and an old friend. I've known him for all of his life. After your precious Sasuke attacked Naruto, he required a special trainer to help him recover. That trainer is me, Q-san." Sakura scowled. She really didn't like this Q lady. "Well, anyway, Naruto, Sasuke and I are going for a barbecue tonight. Do you want to come?" "I'm a little tired, but okay." "What time?" 7 o'clock, I'll see you there," she said as she ran off down the streets. "I don't like that Sakura. You should kill her. I bet she'd taste delicious with some sweet plum sauce," Kyuubi said, licking her lips. Naruto sighed. "Keep those comments to yourself, would you?" Jiraiya, Tsunade and Kakashi sat around the small table. They had only been there for 10 minutes but were already on their second bottle of sake. Kakashi was beside himself. He had been under the impression that Naruto was dead and was only just now being told of his recovery. "Kakashi, I want you to watch Naruto very closely. I believe Kyuubi might be trying to poison his mind," Tsunade said. Kakashi looked shocked. "What do you mean by poison his mind?" Kakashi asked. "He's unstable," Jiraiya said, speaking for the first time. "From what Kyuubi has told us, Naruto has been depressed for some years now. He has even gone so far as to attempt to kill himself. After everything the villages have done to him, he's now starting to believe that he is just a bakemono. We want you to watch him. He starts doing anything strange, you report it. Naruto is a little unstable and Kyuubi may try to take advantage of his current state." "Okay, but what constitutes as strange? I mean, he did just become the nine-tailed fox. Everything about him will be strange. Any kind of antisocial behavior, anything that didn't used to do. We trust your judgment. If you think something isn't right, tell us." Kakashi nodded. The three raised their dishes, drank. Sakura and Sasuke sat at the table. Sasuke hadn't said much since they had arrived, and this irritated Sakura. She smiled when she saw Naruto, and then scowled when she saw Kyuubi next to him. "I don't remember you being invited," Sakura said to Kyuubi in a cheerful yet icy tone. "I wasn't, I just thought I'd better come. Naruto is still quite weak from the fight and I wouldn't want to see him strain himself." Naruto walked right up to Sakura and leant close to her. "Sorry she's here, it's just I kind of need to keep an eye on her. I don't want her running around making trouble," he whispered in her ear. "What?" Sakura whispered. "I thought she was your personal trainer, why do you need to keep an eye on her?" "He thinks I might do something bad," Kyuubi said, interrupting Naruto and Sakura. "Given my track record, I don't blame him. Why I'm here doesn't matter though. Let's just all sit down and enjoy the barbecue." The four sat down and began to chat. Sasuke was looking very pale. He knew he had killed Naruto, he ripped straight through his heart, but here he was still alive. "Naruto, are you okay?" Sasuke said, trying to sound casual but failing to smile. Naruto chuckled lightly. "I'm fine, no permanent damage, it's all good." Sasuke smiled slightly at the news. The four sat down and began to talk. Sakura really didn't seem to like Kyuubi. Sasuke just looked slightly threatened but decided to find out what he could. "So tell us a little about yourself, Q. How long have you known Naruto for?" Sasuke said, trying to start a little conversation. "I've known Naruto his entire life. There's nothing about him I don't know." "Sounds like you guys are really close," Sakura said, putting on a fake smile. Kyuubi chuckled lightly. "I know him but he barely knows me. We're not really that close, in fact Naruto hates me and the first time I saw Naruto I tried to kill him. We both stuck with each other so we force ourselves to get along." "Naruto," Sasuke said, taking his eyes off Kyuubi for the first time. "At the Valley of the End, you had a power. What was that power that could challenge the curse seal on stage 2? And where did Q come from? That night in the Hokage's office I saw her, she wasn't real. She was made out of chakra. I have questions." And Sasuke nodded and then swallowed loudly. The four all began to eat. No more questions were asked about Kyuubi or where Naruto had been for the last week. It was around 9 when Naruto finally got home. He trudged through the door and collapsed on his bed. He would have fallen asleep if Kyuubi hadn't walked in. She was holding a small bottle and glass. "It's time for your medicine." "I don't need medicine, I'm fully recovered." Kyuubi laughed. "Kid, this is the kind of medicine you're going to need to take for the rest of your life. Now your Hokage had to go to a lot of trouble to get this, so you're going to take this." "Forget it, I'm going to bed." Kyuubi sighed. She made the ram seal and began to focus chakra. The seal on Naruto's chest began to burn. He fell to the ground and was unable to move. She leaned over him and forced him to drink the entire bottle of medicine. Naruto coughed and spluttered as the medicine went down. "There, that wasn't so bad, was it?" Kyuubi said with a smile. "What the hell did you do to me and what was that shit?" Naruto said, still coughing. Kyuubi laughed. "Remember when you first saw you had that seal on you and I said that the seal could do a few other things aside from restricting chakra? This is one of those other things. I can completely shut down your body if the situation calls, got it? Now as for the medicine that was human blood." "What?" Naruto shouted. "Keep it down, no need to yell. It's quite simple, you're a demon and demons crave blood. If you don't have blood regularly then your bloodlust will take you over. If that happens then you'll attack anyone and the last thing you need is a murder charge for the council to pin on you." She put her hands together in the ram seal again and channeled chakra. Naruto began to get the feeling back in his body and picked himself up. This time he was able to get to bed without any interruptions, which he was very grateful for. It was only seconds before he fell asleep. Kyuubi just sat down on the couch and watched TV. Naruto looked around, he was in that dream again. Ever since Kyuubi had left him he'd been getting this dream. He was in a long corridor that seemed to span for eternity. He walked down the corridor for a long time. He had completely lost track of time. He could have been walking for minutes or he could have been walking for years. He kept walking until he came across a large black orb about the size of a basketball floating in the middle of the corridor. It had wisps of white which swirled around in the darkness. Something about the orb made Naruto want to run, his whole body wanted to flee. He turned around and started to walk back the way he had come. He only got a few meters before the orb appeared in his way. It was clear there was no escaping the orb. He reached out a hand, the air around the orb felt cool and soothing. He was only mere millimeters away from the orb when a loud screeching sound tore through the corridor. He sat bolt upright screaming. There was a cold sweat all over him. The dream always ended the same. He sat there panting. What did the dream mean and what was that orb? He lay back in his bed and rolled over. There in front of him was the sleeping form of Kyuubi. She was snoring very lightly and had drool coming from her mouth in an almost comical way. Naruto fell out of bed in surprise and landed with a heavy thud. "What the hell are you doing? We agreed that you would sleep on the couch and I would get the bed." Kyuubi woke up drizzly and looked around. It took several moments for her to realize what's going on. "Kid, why did you have to wake me up? Why the hell are you in my bed?" "Oh, the couch was uncomfortable, I couldn't sleep there." "You're not sleeping in my bed," Naruto said, stamping his foot on the floor. A cruel smile appeared on Kyuubi's face. "I may as well sleep in it, I mean you're not using it." Before Naruto could ask what she meant, Kyuubi made the tiger seal and began to channel chakra. Naruto let out a gasp as he felt his body change into that of his fox form and shrink to the size of just a kitling. "That seal is so handy when I want to change your form, and draw all your chakra away. Now that you're so small you can sleep on the end of the bed and I can have the rest. Good night." With that, Kyuubi lay back down and pulled the covers over her head. Naruto grumbled. He hated this, but there was nothing he could do. He curled up on the end of the bed and fell asleep. Naruto strode into the kitchen. He was sorely pissed off at Kyuubi for turning him into his fox form. It sent him wondering about what else she could do to him. He would definitely have to speak to Jiraiya about getting the seal removed. Kyuubi sat at the table eating her breakfast, which was a bowl of ramen. She was dressed in a pair of baggy black cargo pants and had a red tube top on that was low-cut and left her midriff exposed. Her fluffy red tail fell at the back of her pants and swayed gently as she ate. "You know, Kit," she said, still eating her breakfast, "you really need to get something other than ramen. There's nothing else to eat." Naruto said nothing, instead he just glared at Kyuubi. Kyuubi was a bit taken aback by this. "Are you giving me the silent treatment? Are you still mad about last night?" "Of course I'm still mad. You had no right putting this seal on in the first place. Now you go around using it to get your own way and mess around with my human and fox form." Kyuubi let out a light chuckle. "Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. It's not a big deal." Naruto continued to glare. Kyuubi let out a sigh. "Alright, fine. I promise I won't use the seal to mess around with your chakra or your human and fox forms. I'm sorry for what I did. I didn't know you would take it so personally." From the way Kyuubi spoke, it was pretty clear she wasn't sorry at all. "All I wanted was the bed and I got that, so now I'll change you back." Naruto felt the chakra flow back into his body as Kyuubi deactivated the seal. Naruto walked back into his room and changed into his human form. He had only managed to get half dressed when Kyuubi walked in. Naruto's face turned bright red when Kyuubi walked in. He had his boxer shorts on and his pants pulled halfway up his legs. Kyuubi couldn't help but smile at the sight. "Get out of here, I'm trying to get dressed," Naruto said angrily. Kyuubi laughed. "You'll thank me for this." She made a few quick hand seals and pressed her finger right on the front of Naruto's left shoulder. A small black circle appeared with an upside-down triangle in it. She did the exact same set of seals again, but this time pressed her fingers against his right thigh. Naruto watched silently as another seal appeared on his thigh. "What are these?" Naruto said, suspicious of what Kyuubi was doing. After all, the last time she had put a seal on him it had ended badly. "These are storage seals. Now every time you change between your fox and human form you won't need to get dressed again. When you change into a fox, trigger the seals and store your clothes in the seals. When you change back into a human, trigger the seals again as you're changing. If it all works out okay, then as you change your clothes will go right on over you." "Thanks," Naruto said as he continued to get dressed. He walked out and made himself breakfast. "Hey Kit," Kyuubi called out. "Remember to take your medicine." "Yeah sure, don't worry, I'll take it now," Naruto said unconvincingly. He walked over to where the small bottle of blood stood. He poured a glass and pretended to drink it. When Kyuubi turned around he poured it down the sink. "It's all good, I had a whole glass of it." "Good," Kyuubi said, finishing off her breakfast. "Now we can go." I'll be coming with you when you visit Hokage today. Just to make sure everything goes okay. Kyuubi got up and started searching the couch and floor. Have you seen my cloak? She said, starting to get annoyed at its absence. I can't go outside without it, help me find it. Naruto was getting increasingly annoyed. Kyuubi, we have to go now. If you can't find your cloak, you'll just have to tuck your tail into your pants. Kyuubi looked very taken aback by this. You accept me to tuck my tail into my pants? Do you have any idea how uncomfortable that's going to be? Naruto had had enough. You know what, Kyuubi, that's fine. Stay here and look for your stupid cloak, I'm leaving. Kyuubi watched as Naruto walked out the door and down the corridor. She sighed as she put her tail inside the left leg of her pants. This was going to be one uncomfortable day. Naruto walked into the hospital gritting his teeth. It was only a 15-minute walk from his house to the hospital, but in those 15 minutes Kyuubi had really tested his nerves. She wouldn't shut up about how he should be in the demon realm watching over his new kingdom. Naruto found Tsunade in her office. She was fussing over some charts and blood samples. Hi Ba-chan, Naruto said, waving. You wanted to see me? I'm glad to see you here. Honestly, I'll take any excuse to get me away from these blood samples. Now I need to give you a physical and see just what the demon chakra has done to you. I probably should have done this earlier, except that it was all a bit hectic with you going off training with Kyuubi and everything. Now come with me. Tsunade walked out into a separate examination room attached to her office. Take off your shirt and pants, I need to examine you. She gasped when she saw the seal across Naruto's chest. She turned to glare at Kyuubi. This your work, she said, pointing to the seal. Kyuubi was sitting up on one of the benches staring out the window. She turned around when Tsunade spoke. Yeah, I did that thingy, it's a work of pure genius if you ask me. Gives me complete control over the little kid. Tsunade gritted her teeth. She was about to yell abuse at Kyuubi when her eyes came to rest upon Naruto's back. A single word was scared into his back. Bakemono. It was at the top of his lower back and ran horizontal across the whole span of his back. She ran a hand along it and made Naruto shiver at the touch. Naruto, how did you get that scar? Tsunade asked slowly. Kyuubi instantly jumped off the bench. She ran over and cupped a hand over Tsunade's mouth. What scar are you talking about, Ba-chan? Naruto said, seemingly unaware of the scar. Yeah, what are you talking about, Hokage? Kyuubi said, trying to act casual. Hey Hokage, why don't I help you get that thing in the other room? She grabbed a hold of Tsunade's jacket and dragged her into her office. She closed the door. Alright, listen here Hokage. I'm not happy that you're giving Naruto physical, but I'm still allowing it. However, I will not allow you to dig up parts of Naruto's past. What the hell are you talking about? What's so bad about that scar? Kyuubi sighed. Look, just finish your examination and don't ask questions. I'll meet you at around lunchtime in the sake bar. I'll explain everything to you there. She walked out and slammed the door behind her. Tsunade stared at the place Kyuubi had just been standing, wondering what that single scar meant. She walked back into the examination room and continued the physical. It took just over 2 hours to finish. She went through his human and demonic form, documenting everything. She studied his blood and timed muscle reaction times. It wasn't exactly the most comfortable 2 hours for Naruto, but he still stayed. After it was finished, Naruto headed for the training ground to meet up with the rest of his squad while Tsunade left for the sake bar. Jiraiya and Tsunade both sat anxiously awaiting Kyuubi's arrival. Kyuubi stormed through the door looking seriously pissed off. She sat down with half and began to scratch her ass. Do you have any idea how annoying having my tail tucked in is? I have got to find my cloak. Kyuubi-san, I'm sure your tail is causing you problems, but if we could please stay on track. Tsunade said, anxious to hear about Naruto's scar. Yeah, hurry up and get on with it. What's with the seal and the scar? Jiraiya said impatiently. Kyuubi took a sip of sake and tried to reposition her tail. Okay, so we'll start with the seal. It has one main function, and that's holding back chakra. The chakra it holds back is kept in the seal and acts like a barrier against being sealed. It's there pretty much to guard against the Akutsuki. If they try and seal Naruto into the sealing statue, it'll take them months instead of days, that is unless they can remove the seal. However, in order to remove the seal they need to have more than 8 tails of chakra, which I highly doubt they do. It also allows me to control whether he is in his human or fox form, control how much chakra he has and use that chakra to cause him exceptional pain. There are of course a few other things but they cannot be told here. After all, a girl has got to have a few secrets. Now as for the scar, that's a long story. As I'm sure you know, Naruto didn't have the best childhood, and most of that childhood he has forced himself to forget. That word was carved into him more than 20 times. I managed to heal him up enough so that it wouldn't scar, however when that one was done I was unable to heal it. When it was carved in there he also had his lungs punctured, so I was more concerned about getting the blood out of his chest and fixing his lungs than fixing a simple cut. That wound healed normally and left that scar. That scar is a particularly painful memory. It was done when he was about 4 or 5. It was done by his first true friend, Amino Iruka. Iruka. Jiraiya and Tsunade both shouted out together. Yes, it was Iruka. When Iruka was young he attacked Naruto whenever he saw him. When Naruto joined the academy it just got worse. He would humiliate him, degrade him and bash him. It was only in the last 3 years or so of the academy that Iruka realized Naruto was just another victim of my attack. He then spent those 3 years trying to do whatever he could do for Naruto. I cannot imagine the guilt he felt. Although I think he managed to redeem himself, he gave Naruto what he always, a friend. If Naruto was to remember one of his suppressed memories then he'd remember all of them. He doesn't even know he has a scar. If he remembered then he would be overcome with rage. He would destroy the village and kill everyone in it. In this village no one is innocent. If they weren't beating him they were sitting back and letting it happen. Now I want nothing more than to see Konoha burn, but not at the cost of Naruto's happiness. Tsunade and Jiraiya both looked shocked at this news. Has his life really been that bad? Tsunade asked timidly. Kyuubi hung her head low so that her blood-red hair covered her eyes. There is no one on earth who has had to live a crueler life than Naruto. He was kicked out of the orphanage at age 4 and was left to fend for himself. He lived on the streets for a year, every night was spent being beaten. He worked as a cleaner at the hospital right up until he became a genin, only just making enough money to survive. The amount of torment that kid went through was enough to break even the strongest of hearts. Why do you care so much about the brat? It's because of him that you wear sealed? Jiraiya said, feeling angry that Kyuubi wasn't putting any of the blame on herself. Kyuubi smirked. She was about to reply when a surge of chakra rushed through her body. I need to go. The kid didn't take his medicine and the bloodlust is about to take him over. If I don't hurry it'll be too late. She downed one last dish of sake before rushing out. So these origin people want him, huh? Do you know why? Kabuto asked. Orochimaru chuckled lightly even though there was nothing humorous about the situation. No idea, but they're willing to reward me with immortality, so I'm guessing that there's something about him which makes him valuable. Before I hand him over I want to know exactly what it is that makes him so valuable. That is where you come in, Kabuto. I want you to perform reconnaissance on him until you find out everything there is to know. Kabuto bowed his head down low. Of course, Orochimaru-sama, after all, how hard can it be spying on Uzumaki Naruto? Naruto, glad to see you're finally here, Kakashi said as Naruto trudged into the training ground. Did you forget what time training started or did you just sleep in? Lay off me, Kakashi-sensei, I was with Ba-chan. Kakashi understood what he meant. Sakura and Sasuke had now both noticed Naruto's sudden appearance. Alright you two, you can stop with your taijutsu. Now that your teammate has decided to show up we can begin with your teamwork training. You've all been on Team 7 for nearly a year, so you should definitely be able to cope with this. Do you remember these? Kakashi said as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a pair of small silver bells. Not again, all three of them said at the same time. Kakashi smiled under his mask. Same rules as before, you have till sundown or else all three of you will miss out on dinner. Ready, start. In a swirl of leaves Kakashi vanished, leaving the three genin standing in the clearing. We should plan out our strategy, stated Sasuke, taking on the role of leader. First we find Kakashi-sensei. I can find him by using the Sharingan. Dobi, you can use shadow clones and that weird chakra ball you used at the Valley of the End to flush him out. I've told you before, don't call me Dobi. Anyway, that technique is called Rasengan, Naruto said angrily. Yeah, whatever Dobi. Anyway, you use your shadow clones and that Rasengan thingy to distract him so Sakura-chan and I can grab the bells. Wait, why do I miss out on a bell? I'm the one doing all the work, I should get a bell. Hey, I came up with plan, I deserve a bell, Sasuke retorted. Sakura sighed as she watched her two teammates squabble. Quiet, she yelled, instantly silencing the debate. Naruto-kun, you're the only one can make enough shadow clones to distract Kakashi-sensei long enough for us to grab the bells. One of us will go hungry tonight, that is certain. Please Naruto-kun, I know I've asked you for a lot already, but please do this one thing for me. I really. All of a sudden everything went silent. Naruto watched as Sakura's lips moved, but he couldn't hear a thing. Out of nowhere a deep drumming sound echoed throughout the area. He shook his head, but the drumming beat continued to drill into his head. He stared directly at Sakura and the drumming became louder and louder. He soon realized that the drumming was the sound of Sakura's heart. He could hear the blood plumping through her body. He couldn't hold back any longer. He wanted to taste her blood in his mouth. He wanted to tear her apart and devour her flesh. Naruto leant forward ready to tear out Sakura's jugular. He was only mere inches away when a fist connected with his face. He went soaring through the air and crashed into a tree. Sakura and Sasuke both stared with open mouths over what had just happened. Sakura felt her anger rise when she saw who had punched Naruto. Sorry about that, Kyuubi said smiling, but I'll need to borrow the key. I mean Naruto-kun for a few moments. In a flash Kyuubi was gone with Naruto. She ran for about 200 meters before she came to a small clearing. She pinned him against a tree by his neck. Naruto snapped eagerly at her hands, hoping to quench his bloodlust. In only a second Kyuubi had whipped out a small hip flask and was pouring the contents of it down Naruto's throat. She didn't pull it away until all of the contents were down. Naruto's crimson eyes changed back to blue and the bloodlust on his face receded. Kyuubi loosened her grip and eyed the small flask. Because of you I've got nothing to drink for the rest of the day. She turned to stare Naruto dead in his eyes. Do you understand what happens if you don't take your medicine? If I had have come just a second later you would have killed that pretty pink thing. From now on you will always take your medicine. Next time I won't bail you out. Do you understand? Naruto nodded dumbly. Yes Kyuubi-sensei, thank you for helping me out. The seriousness on Kyuubi's face diminished and was replaced with a smile. Off you go, your teammates will be waiting for you. Naruto smiled and hurried away. What was that all about? Asked Sakura puzzled. Oh that, Q-sensei just had to make sure I'd taken my medicine, that was all. This didn't seem to satisfy Sakura or Sasuke. They both wanted to know what really happened but knew they couldn't due to the fact they still needed to get the bells off Kakashi. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and began his search. There, he's hiding up in a tree about 100 meters away. Let's move. Kakashi sat in his tree watching his 3 students walk underneath him. He stared at them contemplating whether to throw shuriken or use a jutsu against them. His thoughts were interrupted when the branch he had been sitting on exploded into millions of splinters. He moved just in time to avoid the Rasengan that was aimed for his head. Kakashi fell to the ground and Naruto landed right next to him with the Rasengan still spinning in his hand. You were fooled by a simple shadow clone. I thought you were smart Kakashi-sensei, Naruto sneered as he stood up. Kakashi sadly realized that the Naruto he had seen walk below was nothing more than a jutsu. He smacked his forehead with his palm when he realized he'd been fooled by such a simple trick. He stood up and dusted himself off. You may have fooled me but you still haven't got my... He stared at his belt in shock. The 2 silver bells that had once dangled so innocently had now vanished. He glanced back at Naruto to see Sasuke and Sakura standing behind him, both proudly presenting a bell within their fingers. When? How? Was all Kakashi managed to get out. Sasuke smiled. When you were falling we both grabbed one. You didn't even realize because you were too busy paying attention to Dobi. I told you to stop calling me that, Naruto whined angrily. Sasuke was about to retaliate when Kakashi raised his hand in silence. Naruto, you failed to retrieve a bell, which means you miss out on dinner, those were the rules. The sound of fighting echoed through the trees and broke the conversation. We'd better check it out. Let's move, Kakashi ordered. Naruto, don't think you've gotten out of this. Kyuubi walked back through the forest towards Naruto's house. She suddenly felt a presence of someone else in the clearing. Come out whoever you are, Kyuubi spat. A figure shrouded in a black cloak emerged from the tree line. I'm impressed you were able to see me. I thought I was hidden pretty well, the figure said smugly. Don't give yourself so much credit, you're horrible at stealth. Now I'll ask you one more time, who are you and what do you want? The figure chuckled lightly. Killing me won't achieve anything. Orochimaru-sama always gets what he wants. Before the figure could say another word, all of Team 7 appeared, each holding a kunai to the figure's neck. Kyuubi grabbed the hood of the figure's cloak and pulled it back to reveal the smirking face of Kabuto. Tsunade, Jiraiya and Kyuubi sat in the Hokage's office eagerly awaiting Ibiki's return. Ibiki had been with Kabuto now for just over half an hour. "How much longer do you think it's going to be?" asked Jiraiya impatiently. "If anyone is going to get results, it's Ibiki-san. He's the best interrogator Konoha has," replied Tsunade, eyeing the door. As if on cue, Ibiki walked in with his usual grim face. "Did he talk?" Tsunade asked eagerly. Ibiki nodded. "I got him talking. He didn't make much sense though. He said that some group had hired Orochimaru to kidnap Naruto and he'd sent Kabuto her to gather information on him. He said the group was called The Origin, although I've never heard of them." "You're lying," Kyuubi yelled. It was the first time Kyuubi had said anything since she had entered the Hokage's office, and the first time ever she had spoken with fear in her voice. "The Origin are sealed in their palace." Ibiki looked puzzled. "Do you know what the Origin is?" "Ibiki-san, please leave. I must discuss with the Sannin alone," Kyuubi said sternly. Ibiki frowned. He didn't like being ordered around, especially by someone he didn't know, but he left nonetheless. "Kyuubi-san, what are you not telling us? What exactly is the Origin?" Tsunade demanded. Kyuubi sighed. "What I'm about to tell you is strictly confidential. You will never repeat what I tell you here tonight. Back before the elemental villages were formed, there existed a being with power to control the world, and I mean that literally. His name was Kenshi Rukom, and he had complete control over space and time. He could cause someone to die by aging their body or by making kunais materialize inside of them. Rukom started a clan and passed down his control of space and time to his children in the form of a Kikii Genkei, known as the Gyakusetsu. I was in the demon realm at the time, but I heard from the three tales that he fully embraced his gift and received what was called the all-seeing eye. It gave him the power to see everything that was happening in the world, as well as what had happened in the past and what would happen in the future. Knowing everything drove him mad, and he forced the rest of his clan to do the same, and they all received the all-seeing eye. Almost all of the clan committed suicide. They couldn't take it. Knowing everything that was going to happen was utter torment. Only 7 members lived, including Rukom. The remaining members of the Kenshi clan formed an organization called the Origin. They had a single goal, which was to conquer the world for the purpose of proving that it could be done. All 9 demon lords allied together to stop the threat. That was the first and last time we ever worked together. We managed to seal them away in their palace. The power these guys have is unimaginable. I've seen firsthand what they can do. If they ever were to escape, nothing could stop them." "Okay," Jiraiya said, trying to take everything in. "That's partially believable, but what's all that got to do with Orochimaru Teme and the brat?" Kyuubi sighed. "From what I can piece together, one of the members from the Kenshi clan survived and had children, and the children had children. The Gyakusetsu was passed down throughout the generations, but it stayed dormant. It stayed dormant until one young ninja discovered he had and took control of it. This ninja's name was Namikaze Minato. He was the first person in generations to activate his dormant bloodline. He created the fabled Hiraishin no Jutsu by utilizing the Gyakusetsu. He took control over the Gyakusetsu, but he did not acquire the all-seeing eye. The Gyakusetsu was weak with him, but he was still able to travel through space in his own leisure. From the second the kid was conceived, every demon lord felt it. He had the Gyakusetsu. The Gyakusetsu was unnaturally strong in him, strength that equals Rukom. The demon lords and I met together to discuss our options. It was clear Naruto had to die. I attacked this village with the goal of killing Naruto." "You what?" screamed Tsunade and Jiraiya together. "Shish," Kyuubi snapped. "That is why you cannot repeat this. Naruto cannot know I came here to kill him. I always thought that if I ever got free, I'd kill him. When I eventually did get free, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. After everything he went through, I just didn't have it in me to kill. Didn't seem fair to kill him after everything he went through. Anyway, when I was sealed in Naruto, I blocked out the Gyakusetsu. Now that I am out, nothing is stopping him from getting the all-seeing eye. Now that I am no longer blocking the Gyakusetsu out, the Origin have sensed it. I'm guessing they want him so he can raise their palace. We sealed deep underground, but if he combines the Gyakusetsu with the amount of charka he has now, then he could break the seal on their palace. If they get him, they will force him to do it, and that will be the end of life as we know it. Tomorrow morning you will train the kid Jiraiya-sanin. There will be no more procrastinating, is that understood? No, I can't, Jiraiya said, waving his hands in front of his face. I think he should train by himself. No one in the village has any real experience with this type of bloodline. He needs to discover how to use his power by himself. If I tried to train him, he could accidentally unlock the all-seeing eye, and from what you've said, that would be bad news to everyone. Kyuubi sighed. The old man really was being stubborn. Very well, have it your way. You will not train him personally, but you will watch over him while he trains. Also, it will be your job to tell him he has a Kikii Genkei. It's your choice if you want to tell him about his parents. Alright, Jiraiya said, surrendering. I'll go and tell him now. Naruto lay on the couch watching TV. After Kabuto had been taken to the Hokage's tower, Kyuubi had told Naruto go home and stay there, and been there ever since. He flicked the channels aimlessly. It was only when the front door slammed shut he awoke from his trance. He looked around to see Jiraiya walk in. Jiraiya sat down on the end of the couch and sighed. Naruto, there's something I need to tell you. Naruto lay on the couch watching TV. After Kabuto had been taken to the Hokage's tower, Kyuubi had told Naruto go home and stay there, and been there ever since. He flicked the channels aimlessly. It was only when the front door slammed shut he awoke from his trance. He looked around to see Jiraiya walk in. Jiraiya sat down on the end of the couch and sighed. Naruto, there's something I need to tell you. Yeah, what is it? Naruto asked innocently. Remember when Tsunade-chan took a blood sample when she gave you your physical? Well, the results came back and it turns out you've got yourself a Kekei Genkei, he said, as if Naruto had won some prize on a game show. Naruto was overjoyed at hearing this. So does that mean you know who my parents are? Jiraiya groaned. He didn't expect Naruto to ask about his parents. We couldn't identify your parents or what clan you're from. Wait, you know I have a Kekei Genkei, but you don't even know what clan I belong to. Naruto looked down so his hair covered his eyes. I'm not as stupid as you think, Ero-sensei. Why won't you tell me? For as long as I can remember, all I've ever wanted is to know who my parents are. I just wanted to know that I was loved once upon a time. Please just tell me where I came from. Jiraiya sighed. You're right. I do know who your parents were, but I cannot tell you. It's for your own safety. I can tell you this though, your parents loved you very much and they would be proud of the ninja you have become. Now we must discuss your Kekei Genkei. It is most important you begin training. Tomorrow you will meet me at Tsunade-chan's personal training ground at 9 o'clock, don't be late. With that he stood up and left, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts. Is there anything else I need to know about the Gyakusetsu? Tsunade asked, concerned. There is one thing, he's begun to have strange dreams. I can tell every time he wakes up he's scared. When I was sealed in the kit I used to have the exact same dreams. I blocked him from getting the dreams by getting them myself. It was like I was walking through this corridor trying to catch this little floating orb, but every time I tried to grab it the orb would vanish. I believe that these dreams are a way to access the Gyakusetsu through his subconscious. I don't know if there's another way to access the Gyakusetsu, but his dreams are probably our best shot. Tsunade pinched the bridge of her nose and sighed. I'm getting too old for this, she said as she reached into her drawer and pulled out a bottle of sake. What do you say we both get drunk? Sure, it's not like a demon can succumb to alcohol poisoning, Kyuubi said jokingly. The two had only gotten through a single glass each when their bodies started to feel numb. What the? Kyuubi managed to squeeze out before she fell to the floor with a thud along with Tsunade. Did you like your sake, girls? I slipped a little tranquilizer in there just for you too. A deep chuckle echoed through the room as none other than Kabuto emerged from the shadows. A smug smile was plastered on his face as he crouched down over Kyuubi. He grabbed her face and pulled it close to his own so that their eyes were only inches apart. Did you really think you beat me? He said smugly. I lost on purpose so I could get in here to gather information. Orochimaru-sama will be very pleased with what I have learned. Kabuto's smug smile grew as he pushed his sunglasses back up the bridge of his nose. I still can't believe that you are the legendary Kyuubi no Yoko, or that you gave up your crown as nine-tailed demon lord to such a runt. Not only that, but I have also found out what the origin really is. I'm sure he will reward me with another woman for me to have my way with. She won't be as beautiful as you, but I'm sure she'll scream. You're a disgusting excuse for a human, Kyuubi said as she spat in his eye. Kabuto grabbed her throat and began to squeeze. You're lucky I'm running so little on time, or else I'd fuck you so hard, you little kitsune bitch. I'd make you scream so loud you'd beg me to kill you. Kabuto stopped his little rant when he saw a smile creeping onto Kyuubi's face. What are you smiling about, bitch? He sneered. Oh, nothing, Kyuubi said, still smiling. It's just that demons can't be poisoned, that renders me immune to all kinds tranquilizer drugs. Realizing what Kyuubi was getting at, Kabuto jumped back just in time to dodge the wind chakra Kyuubi sent at him. He jumped out the window, shattering it into millions of pieces, and ran for the gates. Kyuubi walked over to the window and stared as Kabuto ran away. I'll end your life, make no mistake of that, Kabuto teme, whispered Kyuubi softly into the cool night air. Naruto sat in trance, taking in everything he had heard. A mix of emotions was running through him. Anger for Jiraiya, who refused to tell him who his parents were. Happiness because he did have parents once upon a time, and excitement because he had a Kekkei Genkei. The door swung open and Kyuubi walked in. You still awake, kid? You should probably get off to bed, she said as she poured herself a glass of blood from one of the bottles in the fridge. Yeah, I'll go to bed now, Naruto said, coming out of his trance. Why are you home so late? Did something happen at your meeting? Kyuubi smiled. Nothing. Nothing happened, just a boring old meeting, you wouldn't have enjoyed it. Naruto huffed as got up and went to his bedroom. He turned on the light and yelled, Kyuubi. The single bed that had sat in the corner was gone and replaced with a big double bed with crimson bed sheets. Kyuubi walked in, still drinking her glass of blood. What's the matter? She said innocently. What the hell did you do with my bed? He said firmly. Oh, the bed. I replaced your old crummy bed with a big double. I figured now we wouldn't have to fight over who got the bed and who got the couch. Naruto sighed. She did have a point. I was saving up for a new TV, but I guess this will do. He clambered into bed and soon realized that it really was a comfortable bed. He rolled over to see a stark naked Kyuubi climbing into bed. What the hell are you doing? Put some bloody clothes on, Naruto said, startled at the sight. Kyuubi looked up. What's the big problem? I've had to have my tail tucked in for the whole day. I don't think it's too much to ask to have it out now. I don't care about your tail. I care about the fact that there is a naked girl 2 feet away from me. Kyuubi smiled. Remember, kid, I was sealed in you. I know about all those dirty magazines you had and still have. Don't pretend to be modest. It's obvious that you want me to take these sheets off so you can get yourself a little peep. I don't know what you're talking about, Naruto said defensively. He sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. Look, please just put some clothes on, would you? All he heard in response was the soft sound of Kyuubi snoring. Realizing he'd lost the fight, he rolled over to face the wall and closed his eyes. A week ago I would have done anything to be in the same bed as a naked girl, Naruto thought to himself as he drifted into sleep. So Kabuto heard the whole thing. I'd expect you to be more careful, Tsunade-chan. Tsunade downed another glass of sake. I didn't anticipate for Kabuto to break free and listen in on our conversation. Besides, I'm still wondering why he didn't kill me and Kyuubi when he had the chance. Anyway, this whole situation has brought the council down on me like a ton of bricks. They're asking questions about what Kabuto overheard, and I'm running out of lies to tell them. It will only be a matter of time before they find out what's going on. The door swung open to reveal both members of the village council and Danzo. Tsunade, it is time for you to tell us exactly what is going on. Jiraiya let out a snort of laughter. You know, Tsunade-chan, you really do have bad luck, he joked. Tsunade groaned. There was no way out this time. Alright, I'll tell you, but you will remain silent until I've finished. The same corridor, the ball of black and white, and the same goddamned dream. However, this time it was different. Naruto stared at the ball of energy as it floated innocently. This time he was going to grab it and not wake up. He was going to find out what it was and why it was in his dreams. He ran through the corridor, not glancing away from the orb. With a great leap, Naruto jumped, grabbing the orb and hugging it close to his chest. The familiar screaming sound filled the corridor, but he clenched his eyes tight. He opened his eyes expecting to see the familiar sight of his bedroom, but instead saw something very different. It was in a huge chamber, much like the one Kyuubi had been sealed in, although it had a huge stone arch in the middle. In the middle of the arch was yet another bloody orb. This one was an eerie black with a white star-like shape in the middle, red streaks circling the star and a slight greenish tinge to the whole thing. There was a single sentence carved into the top of the arch. It read, "To see a world in a grain of sand." As Naruto walked towards the orb, the room around him began to melt away until the familiar sight of his bedroom was all he could see. Damn it, thought Naruto. I was so close to finally getting it. He looked at his bedside clock to see it was only 12 o'clock. Well, if I get to sleep quickly, I should be able to have another try to get to the arch. This is unacceptable, Tsunade-sama. This information should have been brought forward to us the second it happened. You have failed your duty of care to this village by concealing this, Homura lectured. Tsunade slammed her hands down on the desk. How have I failed my duty of care exactly? When I look out the window, Konoha is still there. Kyuubi has been free for nearly 2 weeks and the village is still intact. She is not here to harm us. You're right, Tsunade, she is not here to harm us. She is here to harm one of our valued shinobi, Danzo said calmly. What? Jiraiya shouted, you three have always hated Naruto. It's only because you found out who his dear old daddy was and what his daddy gave him. It is true we all do share some dislike for him, but that is in the past, Kaharu said sincerely. However, we need to think about Naruto's safety. If the villages find he has become the new nine-tailed demon, they'll kill him along with the recently freed Kyuubi. Orochimaru is now after him. Akatsuki are still after him, and now this organization known as the Origin are after him. I think we should keep him in a safe place like the root base, for example. No, Jiraiya said firmly. I don't think we should be treating the situation any differently than how it is now. Let's not forget, Kyuubi did once nearly destroy this village, and although Konoha wasn't her target back then, I'm guessing that being sealed away probably raised Konoha up on her list of things to kill. We shouldn't be aggravating her by changing her and Naruto's lifestyle. Kyuubi may not be as powerful as she once was, but she has put that seal on Naruto so she can use him as a weapon if she wishes, and I'm sure even a dobi like Naruto could do some damage with 9 tails worth of chakra behind him. Danzo grunted in response to what Jiraiya had said. It was obvious he didn't like the idea of an ex-Jinchuriki turned demon lord and an ex-demon lord and Konoha hater walking around his village. Naruto will continue his present way of life, but if anything goes wrong he should be moved to the root base immediately. Then it's agreed, Tsunade said grumbled. There will be no changes made, so there really was no need for this little meeting, and there was certainly no need for you three to know the situation. Now it's past midnight, so if you guys could kindly leave so I can get pissed drunk and go to bed, she said as she pointed towards the door and took a swig straight from her sake bottle. Naruto groaned as the sun streamed in through his window. He rolled over to try and shield his eyes from the sun but knew he had to get up. He walked sluggishly into the kitchen to find Kyuubi. Naruto let out a sigh of relief when he saw that she was in fact clothed. She wore her usual baggy pants, tube top and cloak. As much as Naruto had been hoping for her to be dressed modestly, he couldn't help but feel he was missing out on something. Morning, Kyuubi said as she looked through the cupboards. Although I told you to buy something other than ramen. I would have, but you spent all of my money on that bed, Naruto said defensively. Kyuubi shrugged. Fair enough, but the next time you go shopping could get some real food please. Naruto walked over and got himself a cup of instant ramen. I don't want you to think I'm being rude or something, but are you planning on getting a job and helping to pay the bills and stuff? Kyuubi laughed. Yeah, I'll do that. After all, everyone in town is jumping at the prospect of hiring a girl with a tail because no one thinks that's weird or anything. Maybe you could try a career as a ninja, Naruto suggested. This made Kyuubi laugh even harder. I don't think my pride could take that. First I get beaten by a human, then I have to give my crown to a human, and then after all that I start working for them. Nah, I don't think I'll be doing that. Naruto groaned. Look, I can barely afford to keep myself fed, let alone you. Get a bloody job and help me keep a roof over our heads. Kyuubi glared at him. It's nearly 9, you should get a move on, she said, slightly aggravated about being ordered around. She decided to skip breakfast and closed the cupboards. I need to talk to that no-good pervert you call a sensei, she said as she walked out the door. Naruto quickly had his breakfast and headed towards the Hokage's private training ground. Jiraiya sat leaning against a tree waiting for Naruto arrive. He had had a talk with Kyuubi only minutes ago about how to aid Naruto with his training. Kyuubi had some really brutal ways of training, but she had facts to back up why. The only way to truly awaken any Kekkei Genkei is to put the owner in a life and death situation. That was the only way to do it, and that is what he would have to do with Naruto. Flashback. Kyuubi, what are you doing here? I was expecting to see Gaki, Jiraiya grumbled. Kyuubi gave a hollow smile. It was evident Jiraiya didn't like Kyuubi, after all it was because of her that Minato was dead. I'm here to tell you how to train Naruto because you have no idea how. She took a bag from her belt and threw it on the ground next Jiraiya. Jiraiya opened it and took out a bunch of senbon needles. Those are poisoned-tipped senbon. The poison is designed to cause great pain but do no major damage. Tie him up and start throwing these at him. He'll have to use the Gyakusetsu in order to stop them coming. Trust me, after he feels the pain of just one of these needles he'll be more than willing to the Gyakusetsu in order to make it stop. How are you so sure he'll even be able to awaken it? Jiraiya said, angry about her methods. Last night I used a jutsu to enter his dreams. He didn't even realize I was there, but I was able to guide him through his subconscious and watched as he acquired the power he should rightfully have. He's now at the next stage, the archway to the all-seeing eye, and after that is the origin, although I'll make damn sure he never gets to that stage. As long as you do your job everything will be okay. I don't know what you're up to, Jiraiya said as Kyuubi walked away, but I'll find out and stop you. Kyuubi laughed. You worried too much, Jiraiya Sanin. Not all demons are bad. She looked back at the Sanin. Not all demons are bad, but I am, she said soft enough so Jiraiya couldn't hear. End flashback. Naruto walked out into the clearing to see Jiraiya deep in thought. Naruto walked up to him smiling. Hey, are we ready to start? He asked. Jiraiya gave a weak smile. I guess so. He made a few hand seals and slammed his hand against the ground. Two huge toads appeared and grabbed Naruto. They quickly pulled him over to a tree and tied him to it with ninja wire. Jiraiya dismissed the toads and pulled a bundle of senbon needles out from his pocket. He sighed as he watched Naruto struggle to get out of the wire. Here's how things are going to go, announced Jiraiya. These senbon are coated with a poison that hurts like ever-loving shit. I am going to throw these at you and you are going to use your Kekkei Genkei to stop them from hitting you. Wait, Naruto shouted. How am I supposed to use my Kekkei Genkei to stop the needles when you haven't even told me what my Kekkei Genkei can do? The less you know the better. All you really need to do is concentrate on stopping the senbon as they come at you. I want you focus on the senbon and stop them dead in time. Got it? Jiraiya didn't wait for Naruto to answer. He threw the first senbon of many to more to come. It connected with its target, piercing into the soft tissue of Naruto's thigh. At first the needle didn't really hurt that much and then the poison struck. Naruto let out an ear-shattering scream at the pain. Jiraiya threw another and didn't stop throwing. Tsunade glared at that faces in the conference room. Since she had told the elders, they had systematically spread the word to every clan head and anybody else with any political power. This meeting has been called to discuss the current situation of Namikaze Naruto. Danzo announced Danzo to the room full of council members, clan heads and Tsunade. Okay, let's get a few things straight, Tsunade boomed angrily. Firstly, it's Uzumaki Naruto, not Namikaze. Just because you guys found out who his father was doesn't mean you can call him by the Namikaze name. Secondly, I don't know which member of the council told you all about the changes Naruto has gone through, but I can assure you that you don't need to know. There is no reason for this meeting, there is no reason for you people to know about what is going on, and there is most certainly no danger to the village or its population. I beg to differ, said Aburame Shibi in his usual stoic voice. We are allowing a demon to live amongst us and you are saying we don't need to know. We have Kyuubi walking around with only Uzumaki Naruto watching him, who is in fact a demon as well. We should be locking the two of the up and throwing away the key. Being a demon is no crime, said Tsunade calmly. We could lock up Kyuubi for her previous crimes of attacking the village, but even then Naruto is innocent and he wouldn't take kindly to Kyuubi being locked up. We must remember that we are dealing with an emotionally unstable 12-year-old as well as the most powerful Biju, she reasoned. We have to be delicate about how we approach the situation. I think he should succeed Tsunade-sama and become the Rokudame Hokage, said a loud voice. Everyone stopped their bickering and turned to see Haruna Miya. Haruna Miya was the newest member to the council, She didn't represent a clan but rather represented everyone else in Konoha who was not part of clan. Although only new to the whole meeting thing, she knew her rights and could always win an argument, especially when it was with her 12-year-old daughter Haruna Sakura. Uzumaki Naruto is no longer a little kid. If we play our cards right, we can turn Konoha into a very powerful village, she said, not taking any notice of the stunned faces. He's wanted to be Hokage since he found out what it meant. We give him the title of Rokudame and we get the nine-tailed demon fox protecting the village, and Naruto gets his dream. Everybody wins. The entire room was divided. Some liked the idea, others were not sure, and some hated it with everything they had. What surprised everyone was that Danzo was for it. Danzo stood up and everyone became silent. We give it a month. Depending on how Naruto's skills improve with his Kekkei Genkai, we will meet again and discuss the issue in exactly a month. With that, Danzo got up and walked out. The others took Danzo's lead and left, all except for Tsunade. She sat deep in thought about the events that had just transpired. Why would Danzo of all people want Naruto to be named Rokudame, she thought to herself. Something wasn't right and she was going to find out what. Naruto hung limply from the tree, panting. It had now been 3 full days since his training had begun. The only rest he had had from his torment was when Jiraiya ran out of needles and had to remove them from Naruto's body. On several occasions Jiraiya was forced to summon a toad to throw the needles so he could have a sleep. The most significant thing to change was the way Naruto was held. The ninja wire that had once bound him to the tree had been replaced with a pair of wrist irons attached to a branch and left him suspended about a foot off the ground. Underneath him was a large seal that had been burnt into the ground. The irons were there to hold him directly in the middle of the seal, and the seal was there to stop him from using his demon chakra to attack his sensei. Although he'd been training for 3 days, the most Naruto had accomplished was slowing down the needles as they cut through the air on their course towards him. That's why it was so significant when Naruto accomplished his goal. It was around lunchtime on the 4th day when he finally stopped the Senbon. It came as a shock for both Jiraiya and Naruto. It defied all laws of physics, but it still happened. The needle froze in mid-air, refusing to move. It stayed suspended about a meter off the ground and didn't move in the slightest, even in the moderately strong wind. Jiraiya walked over and plucked the needle out of its position, eyeing it carefully. "All right," Jiraiya said, clapping his hands together. "You've done it, but I'm going to need you to do it a few more times." Sasuke and Sakura sat quietly as they focused on controlling their chakra better. Sasuke was having some trouble while Sakura seemed to be having no problems at all. "Hey Sasuke-kun," Sakura asked. "Don't you think it's strange that Naruto-kun hasn't showed up for training in 3 days?" "I guess so," Sasuke answered, not really paying attention. "Kakashi-sensei doesn't seem to think much of it, so I don't know why we should be worried. I bet he's doing something really cool, like doing some kind of really special training or something." Sasuke froze at the thought of Naruto getting special training and himself missing out made his anger rise. "We need to find out. I mean, if something is wrong we might be able to help. Come on, Kakashi-sensei isn't even watching us, let's go." The fire flickered lightly even though there was no wind in the dark room. Orochimaru sat casually on his throne as he pondered about what Kabuto had told him. "Orochimaru-sama, what are you going to do about Naruto? Are you going to try and take his body, or will you hand him over to the Origin?" Orochimaru chuckled lightly at what his right-hand man had said. "I thought about taking his body, but if what you said about him becoming a demon is true, then it cannot be done. Demon blood is a very interesting thing. It attacks anything that isn't native to the body. If I were to use Fushi Tensai, his demonic blood would kill me. No, I don't think I'll be taking his body." "How do you intend to take him? I mean, you're good and all, but not even a Sannin can go up against an entire village of Anbu. As long as he's in Konoha you can't take him, and I don't think the Tsunade will be letting him leave anytime soon. What's the plan?" "I bide my time for now, then I force him to leave his village. Though once I have him I'll be asking the Origin for a hell of a lot more, and with the power that kid possesses they'll have to give it to me." Naruto opened his eyes drowsily. He was in familiar apartment. He had been training with Jiraiya for little over a week, and that had been the last thing he had remembered. The door creaked open. Naruto rolled over and gaped at what he saw. It was Kyuubi, but not the usual Kyuubi. She wore black tight-fitting pants with gray armor plating and a skin-tight black singlet top that also had gray armor plates. On her hands were black gloves and she had gray metallic bracers on her forearms. The thing that surprised Naruto the most was that white fox mask that covered her face. Kyuubi, your Anbu, when did this happen? Kyuubi chuckled lightly. You were away training for over a week and then you've been unconscious for a few days. All up you've been out of the loop for 2 weeks and a lot happens in 2 weeks. Anyway, I'm not completely Anbu. They wanted to give me that stupid tattoo but I refused to be branded. I've been mostly doing guard duty and patrols but the pay is really good. I'm earning a whole lot more than what you are. Yeah, rub it in, Naruto said sarcastically. I'm still finding it hard to believe that Ba-chan let you join the Anbu. I mean, you two didn't exactly hit it off. Yeah, you're right about that, but the village elders thought it would be good for me to be with them rather than against them. Not only that, but I'm now also a member of the council. I help determine what happens and what doesn't happen. Now more importantly, I heard some pretty interesting things from that pervert about how your training was going. He trained you for a full week and a half before the strain on your body caused you to lose consciousness. Tsunade-san wanted you to go to the hospital, but I thought it would be better if you rested up here. So please tell me what happened. Ero-sensei is fucking crazy. His idea of training was tying me up and throwing senbon at me. I haven't had anything to eat in 2 weeks. I had to go to the toilet in my fucking pants. I wasn't allowed to sleep or rest. It was the worst week and a half of my life. I know. I knew about his training methods long before you did. I tried to convince him that it wasn't necessary, but he insisted that he'd push you to your limits, Kyuubi said, lying through her teeth. I didn't want him to do what he did, but he wouldn't listen to me. She could see tears begin to form in Naruto's eyes as he thought back to the events of his training. She leant forth and embraced him in a hug. Kyuubi's plan was working. He believed that Jiraiya was responsible for his hellish training and was beginning to trust her more and more. Please Naruto, tell me what you learned in your training. I can do things that shouldn't be able to be done. I can stop things and move them around. Ero-sensei said that I can move any object throughout space and time. He said that now that I have the basics it should be easier. I feel like some kind of freak. A Kekkei Genkai shouldn't have this much power. This is a power only gods should have. Kyuubi raised an eyebrow at this. I don't think you should worry about whether or not you deserve this power or not. Just try and become stronger. You always said you wanted to grow strong so you could protect those that you cared about. Take this power as a blessing. Now it's been 2 weeks since you've had something to eat, you must be starved. Let's go get some ramen, my treat. But I still have questions, Naruto pleaded. Why have I only recently been able to use my Kekkei Genkai? How come everyone else knows about my Kekkei Genkai? Why is everyone keeping secrets from me, and why is all this happening to me? Kyuubi just gave him a sympathetic look. Sometimes the best help you can give someone is to keep them ignorant of a threat. People are keeping secrets from you for your own protection. Remember when I was sealed in you and no one would tell you because they wanted to keep you safe? It's just like that. Everything all will be told to you when the time is right, but until then just be patient and roll with it. Now the longer we stay here the longer we have to wait for our ramen, let's go. Kyuubi quickly changed out of her Anbu gear and into a casual kimono, and the two of them walked out the door and headed for Ichiraku's. Sasuke pushed the door open and peered into Naruto's apartment. Okay, the coast is clear, he said as he and Sakura sneaked into the room. Alright, something is going on with Naruto, let's search his apartment for clues. The two only stayed for a few minutes. They looked through every room but found nothing out of the ordinary, that is until Sakura found Kyuubi's Anbu mask. Hey Sasuke-kun, come have a look at this, she said as she showed Sasuke the mask. Sasuke looked it over and frowned. It's obvious what's going on, Naruto has become an Anbu agent. It's probably only recently he's got this promotion and that's why he hasn't showed up for training in so long. Wow, Sakura said surprised. Either the Anbu has drastically lowered their standards or Naruto-kun is a lot stronger than he lets on. That's it, Sasuke said annoyed. If the Dobi gets to be an Anbu then so do I. I'm going to go give Tsunade-sama a piece of my mind. Wait, Sakura said, thinking things through. Let's talk to Naruto-kun first, he may be able to shed some light. We'll go for now and come back when he's home. Kyuubi had just finished her first bowl of ramen when Naruto had just started on his 7th. She was amazed at just how much he could eat and where it all went. Most people struggled to get through one bowl, but here Naruto had nearly finished 7. There were just some things in this world that just couldn't be explained. Kit, Kyuubi said, "Have you given any more thought about my proposal?" Naruto looked up from his bowl. "Which one are you talking about?" Kyuubi's sweat dropped. "The Kingdom of Nine needs a leader, you can be the leader. You're everything that your kingdom needs. Not only that, but you are the nine-tailed demon lord, it is your duty and destiny to rule. Look Q-chan, I've had a lot go on these last couple of weeks, I really don't need any more on my plate." Naruto looked up to see the vein popping out of Kyuubi's forehead. "Don't call me Chan. I'm able to put up with a lot, but Chan just isn't one of those things." Yeah, whatever you say Q-chan," Naruto said with a cheeky grin on his face. Kyuubi was about to smash his face against the table when she saw that foxy smile. It had been such a long time since Naruto smiled, just the very sight of it made her heart go soft. "Come, let's finish up, even on an Anbu salary my wallet can't take too much more." Naruto wolfed down the last of his ramen and he and Kyuubi left. Kyuubi flopped on the couch the moment they walked in the door. She ripped off the ribbon that held her kimono, tore off her clothing. She let out a sigh of relief when she felt her tail move freely for the first time that day. It had been another uncomfortable day again. Between the kimono and her Anbu gear she had been forced to keep her tail tucked in all day. Naruto walked in to see Kyuubi standing in the middle of her living room with nothing on but her underwear. "Could you put some bloody clothes on?" Naruto grumbled, but secretly taking in what he saw. Kyuubi grunted. "Why, I just need to give my tail some space, besides it's not like anybody is going to see." As if on cue the door flew open and Sasuke followed by Sakura barged into the room. "Right," Sasuke said, "what the hell is going on with you and why the hell are you in Anbu?" It was then that Sasuke and Sakura noticed the half-naked Kyuubi. Tail," Sasuke stuttered as he pointed at the swaying fluffy tail. Sakura said nothing, she was too concerned about trying not to faint at the sight. It was several seconds later before she managed to squeak out a few words. "Why does your personal trainer have a tail?" Kyuubi gave a weak laugh as she realized just what complications this situation would have. Naruto groaned as he slapped his forehead. "Why does all this happen to me?" he thought to himself. Kyuubi gave a shy laugh at the whole situation. A sly smile crept onto her face as she thought of an idea of what to do. "Well, it seems like you three have got a lot to talk about. I better leave you guys alone so Naruto can explain," she said as she slipped on her kimono and headed for the door. In the blink of an eye Naruto was at the door. "No, you're not leaving me to deal with this shit," he said as he slammed the door shut. "You're going to explain and I'm going to sit down and watch." Kyuubi turned to see the opened-mouthed Sakura and Sasuke. "Well, you see I am actually not Naruto's personal trainer. Well, I kind of am, but not for the reasons I told you. How do I put this? I am actually the Kyuubi no Yoko, the same Kyuubi that attacked this village and brutally slaughtered most of the ninja force as well as many civilians. You see, I was sealed in your friend Naruto over here, and now that I'm out I'm kind of training Naruto." "Wait," Sakura said, still taking everything in. "You're the nine-tailed demon fox." Kyuubi flinched at the decibel level Sakura was using. "Well, not really, I kind of gave my crown to Naruto, so he's really the nine-tailed demon fox and the one you should be yelling at." Sakura and Sasuke both stared at Naruto. Naruto sighed as changed into his kitsune form. There Naruto was, a horse-sized golden kitsune with 9 swishing tails. Both Sakura and Sasuke fell down in sheer shock. Maybe it was that a human had just turned into a fox, or maybe it was that a demon they thought was dead had suddenly appeared again. The most likely culprit was a little of each. "You are a fox," Sasuke said in shock while still struggling to stand. Naruto gave a shy laugh. "Well, now that you know, I guess it's okay if you don't like me anymore. However, I'm going to need to ask you not to talk about what you've seen today. There's a law that states that nobody is allowed to speak the truth about how Kyuubi was sealed in me. There are harsh penalties for those who break this law, and I'd hate to see you punished." Naruto changed back into his human form and walked off towards his bedroom. Kyuubi eyed Sakura and Sasuke. "Please," she said almost sincerely, "don't hate Naruto for something he had no control over. Please try to forgive him. Right now he needs his friends more than anything else. Now if there's nothing else, I think I'll join Naruto and go to sleep." "Wait," Sasuke said, "if Naruto is the nine-tailed fox, does that mean he's strong?" "Of course he's fucking strong. He's stronger than anyone you'll ever come across, or at least he will be once he learns how to tap into his power. There's just one more thing. Yeah, Kyuubi said tiredly. If you were once the nine-tailed demon fox, then that means you must be very powerful. I was wondering if you could possibly train me. Kyuubi chuckled at the request. Right now I'm busy training Naruto, and besides, Kakashi is more than an adequate sensei. I mean, out of the entire squad it's really only you he cares about. As for you, Pinky, she said as she turned towards Sakura, you could do with some extra guidance. Tomorrow I think you should go to your Hokage and ask for your own personal sensei. Maybe someone who specializes in medicine and medical jutsu. You have the makings of an excellent medical nin. With the proper training you could do great things. As for you, Uchiha, you don't need an ex-demon lord as a sensei. You just need start listening to people when they're trying to help you. That, and you need a different ambition. Living for revenge is hardly living at all. Killing your brother won't bring back your clan. All it's going to do is make it so there is one less Uchiha in this world. I'm not asking you to forgive him, I'm asking you to forget him. A man who slaughters his entire clan is worth the pain you could exact upon him. Just forget him, he isn't worth your time. So in short, Sakura, you're a very competent ninja, but in your head you're still just that little scared girlie from the academy. Now Sasuke, if you just forgot about Itachi and focused on your training, then you would get stronger. Anger can help people become stronger, but with you it's only a distraction. Never settle for second best, you're worth a lot more. Now I've said my part, I'm tired and I'm going to bed. Good night. With that, Kyuubi walked off into the bedroom, leaving Sakura and Sasuke behind. The two stood there, still as statues, taking everything in. This was the night that changed everything for the two genin. It took the words of an ex-demon lord to finally motivate the two to become more than what they were, to train hard and move forward. Tomorrow would be the day that Sasuke stopped taking Kakashi's training for granted, and the day Sakura asked to be a medic nin. Come in. A voice called out through the big heavy wooden doors. Sakura pushed open the door and walked into the Hokage's office to see Tsunade sitting lazily at her desk and Shizune standing behind her. So why did you want to see me? Tsunade staring out the window. Tsunade was rightly shocked when Sakura fell to her knees. Please, I beg you, take me as your student, Tsunade-sama. Teach me how to be a medical nin. Please, I am committed and will do as instructed. Please, I'm on my hands and knees begging you, take me as your student. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. You know what you want and you're going for it. I respect that, and I respect you. I'll train you to the best of my abilities, but at the end of the day you are responsible for your own progression. Be at the hospital at 9 o'clock tomorrow and we'll start you off on your training. Naruto yawned as he continued to follow Kyuubi into the forest. Being woken up at 6 in the morning on his day off wasn't his idea of fun. Deeper and deeper they went, and the deeper they went the more concerned Naruto got. They were well out of the village now, and Tsunade had said that he really wasn't allowed leave the Konoha. Alright, Kyuubi said, stopping abruptly and taking off her rather large backpack and unpacking it. So you've got a bedroll, some small food rations, a couple of pairs of clothes and some books about ninja stuff. The books in question were really the equivalent of a small library. Clearly Kyuubi had something planned. She walked over to a large rock and began to burn a strange symbol into it. As Naruto watched her do it, became clear that the symbol was actually an odd kind of seal. With one fluent motion she slammed her open palm in the middle of the seal and the whole rock glowed purple. Okay, so here's what's going on. One of Jiraiya's informants has given us some rather bad news. It seems that Orochimaru may be planning something, so the time has come for you to learn how to use the power you have. The seal on that rock links directly to the seal on your chest. It pretty much stops you from going more than 10 kilometers in any direction. So you have enough food for about a week. After that you'll have to search for food, although there's plenty of that all over here. There's river a couple of 100 meters to the west. That's probably your best bet for food and water. Now I'll come back whenever I get the chance and see how you're going. Wait, Naruto said in shock. You mean you're just going to leave me here? Pretty much, Kyuubi said blankly. You're in the middle of nowhere and there's no way anyone is going to find you, so that means there's no way Orochimaru can get to you. Use this time wisely and train. Now I'm leaving, so goodbye. Before Naruto realized, Kyuubi had already taken off in the direction of Konoha. Then it sank into Naruto exactly what Kyuubi had just done. He quickly followed. He was going to catch her and make her undo everything she had just done. Kyuubi leapt through the trees with Naruto hot on her heels. Naruto was much faster than most people, but he wasn't fast enough to catch Kyuubi. After about 15 minutes of solid running, Kyuubi stopped. Naruto jumped down from a tree and landed only a few meters away from her. "This is it," Kyuubi said with a sympathetic look upon her face. "We've reached the 10-kilometer line, you can't come in further than this. I'm sorry to do this to you, but there isn't any other way. Orochimaru has spies in the village, so I'm the only one that knows where you are. Try to use this time productively, would you? I'll come back and see how you're doing and give you more books. When you get strong enough, I'll remove the seal. I am truly sorry, even if you think I don't mean it." With that, Kyuubi turned and walked off. Raising chakra in his fists, Naruto charged at Kyuubi, ready to kill. Naruto's vision was blurred by a flash of white light before his vision returned for him to see that big black rock with the seal burned into it. An idea suddenly formed in Naruto's mind. It was a simple theory: if there was no seal, then he could leave. Naruto reared back his fist and punched the rock with all his might. The pain that followed Naruto's chest was excruciating. It felt as if he punched his own chest instead of that bloody rock. Clearly he was going to be here for a long time. Tsunade took another sip of sake as she took in everything that Kyuubi had said. "So you left him out in the forest to train. I hope you know what you're doing. I thought you had a little more faith in me than that. Trust me, what the kid really needs is some time alone to think and train. There's no way anyone can find him where I've put him. Now I came here to find out what's happening with the council, so tell me." As far as the council is concerned, Naruto is still a possible threat, almost as much of a threat as you. It takes a unanimous vote in order to give Naruto the title of Rokudame. There's still mixed opinions among the council. Nothing is going to happen for a while, even with Haruna Miya cracking her whip. Now as for Orochimaru, Jiraiya thinks Orochimaru may try to attack during the Victory Festival. The Victory Festival was held every year to commemorate the victory over Kyuubi. It was always a bittersweet moment. People cried as they remembered those they had lost, but at the same time celebrated the great victory of the Yondaime. It was no wonder Orochimaru was choosing to launch his attack at a time where everyone is celebrating and there is only a few shinobi on guard duty. "Alright," Kyuubi said, nodding, "let's starting preparations." A cool breeze blew through trees and rustled the leaves lightly. Out here in the forest was the only place Tsunade could go to think without being pestered by Shizune. She quietly sipped her sake as she wondered what exactly was going to happen. To say she was impressed by Sakura's medical skill would have been an understatement. Sakura had been progressing at an alarming rate. There was no doubt she would prove to be a valuable asset in the inevitable attack from Orochimaru. As for Naruto, she couldn't say much at all. It had been 4 weeks since Kyuubi had dumped him in the middle of the forest, and no one had heard from him since, not even Kyuubi. Tsunade would have gone to see him, but she didn't know where he was. Despite a bit of a rough start, Kyuubi and Tsunade usually got on with each other, but when it came to Kyuubi's training methods, that's where she lost faith. Throwing someone in the forest and just leaving them there was wrong, even if it is for some ludicrous training method. Tsunade was brought out of her thoughts when she heard the sound of leaves crunching under footsteps. She looked up as Kyuubi walked out from behind a tree. "I knew you'd be here," Kyuubi said, smiling. "I could smell you." "What do you want?" Tsunade said tiredly. Kyuubi smirked. "Well, you are the Hokage and I am an Anbu operative, so when I finish my mission I must report to you. That's why I'm here." Tsunade sighed. "Kyuubi-san, what do you think is going to happen? Orochimaru has a lot of forces under his command. If he attacks with everything he's got, then we could be in some serious shit. Everything's going to be fine as long as the kid sticks to his training." "Yeah, about that, I was wondering if I could go see Naruto. I mean, I am Hokage and he is one of my ninjas, so I have a right to see how he is progressing." Kyuubi looked at her, tilting her head slightly. "You know what, I will take you. He's been out there long enough and maybe some familiar faces will do him well." Tsunade smiled softly. She was surprised Kyuubi changed her mind so easily, but thought nothing of it. "Alright then, let's go then." Tsunade and Kyuubi had been walking for what seemed like hours. A rush of joy flowed through her when Kyuubi announced that they were there. However, it was not what either of them had expected. The whole area looked like a bomb had gone off. All that was left were craters and tree stumps. The stone that had once held Naruto was nothing but rubble on the ground. Neither knew what had caused the destruction, but something had seriously gone wrong. "Kyuubi-san, is this a joke or something?" Tsunade said concerned. Something happened, and by the look of this I'd say it was fairly recent. Could be Orochimaru or someone else the Origin hired to get Kid. Still there isn't much that could destroy the seal I had keeping him here. We might be in a little bit of trouble here. What? Tsunade said. We might be in a little bit trouble, it's you who's in trouble. Kyuubi had to cover her ears at the decibel level of Tsunade's voice. Because of you Naruto is gone and we have no idea of where he is. Congratulations, you managed to fuck up everything. Kyuubi looked down at the ground with an expression that looked something like shame. I think I know where Naruto is, she said as she jumped off into the trees displaying a speed she'd never shown before. Tsunade blinked a few times before she too took off following Kyuubi. Kyuubi burst through the trees and was greeted with the sight of Naruto sitting on the head of the fourth Hokage. Tsunade soon followed, she burst through the trees and sighed in relief when she saw her favorite blonde genin. I thought I'd find you here little kid, Kyuubi said happily. This always was your favorite spot come to when things got too much. Naruto turned around slowly to look at his guests. Kyuubi and Tsunade both gasped at what they saw. Naruto's whole face had completely changed. He looked older, he had the face of an adult who had seen too much death and sorrow. Not only that but he now had his Hitatai sliding down his face and covering his left eye. His single visible eye had huge bags under it indicating that he hadn't slept in over a week. He wearily stared at them and sighed. I guess you found me, but then again I could see you coming, he said as he tapped his Hitatai covering his eye. You two have some explaining to do. Tell me why I can see things that are happening miles away. Tell me why I dream of things that happened in the past and future and tell me exactly what my Kei Genkai is. Alright, Kyuubi said bluntly. I guess it's time I share a few details with you. Let's head home, I'll tell you there. So you're telling me I have complete control over space and time, Naruto said as his eyes lit up. Pretty much, Kyuubi said casually. That's why your left eye has changed. Your eye is in the early stages of the all-seeing eye. If you achieve that you will be able to see the entire space-time continuum although you really don't want that. When you fully unlock it you'll be able to see everything that is happening in the world. As for why you dreams of the past and future I don't really know but I'm guessing that also has something to do with your new eye. Now what I am wondering is how you were able to break that seal I had. Naruto smiled his trademark fox grin. Your seal was a piece of cake. I just had to break the rock and then I was free. Yeah but how? That seal used your own chakra to protect itself. Naruto laughed. It was easy. All I had to do was train until I had nearly no chakra left then I blasted it apart. You blasted it apart? Kyuubi said narrowing her eyes. How? Naruto smiled. Follow me and I'll show you. Naruto, Kyuubi and Tsunade stood atop the hill overlooking the endless forests that surrounded Konoha. Watch this, Naruto said smiling. He began focusing all of his chakra. He began to form a gravity vortex out in the middle of the forest. It looked like a tiny swirling sphere like a mini Rasengan. It was only the size of about a pea but it had all of Naruto's immense chakra behind it. The trees started to bend and get sucked into the tiny sphere. The entire area was ripped apart as a once calm forest turned into a massive swirling vortex filled with trees and debris. All of it was being compressed into the tiny vortex. In a second the vortex stopped and all the gravity it had behind it was suddenly released. The entire area was blasted apart by a shockwave that tore through even the oldest of trees. Nothing was left in the kilometer radius of the jutsu. Tsunade and Kyuubi just stood up on the hill gaping at the sheer destructive force of the jutsu. Naruto fell back exhausted. He'd used up all his chakra trying to show off and now he was paying for it. The look of shock on Kyuubi's face soon turned to deep anger. You idiot, you used too much of your chakra. Whoa, come down Kyuubi-san, it's not a big deal, a little rest and he'll be back to normal. Tsunade said, not understanding why she was getting so upset. Kyuubi glared at Naruto. I thought you'd grown up a little in these last few months but it seems you're still just the same stupid kid you've always been. You used way too much chakra, every Biju would have felt that. They're going to know it was my old chakra that cast that time-space jutsu. The Jinchuriki will come looking for me and find you. Naruto, they are going to kill you. Quote, W. What? Naruto said stuttering, why would they kill me? Naruto, the Gyakasetsu is not a normal bloodline. Its existence threatens the way of the world. In the wrong hands it can do a lot of bad things. The Biju can't allow anyone to live who carries the Gyakasetsu in them. You are going to die. So I'll just hide out for a few days and wait till it all blows over, Naruto said casually. Kyuubi smacked her forehead at Naruto's ignorance. You don't understand, do you? You're a Biju now and Biju can sense other Biju. No matter where you run they'll find you. Now that they've realized something is wrong they're going to look for you, and when they find you they are going to kill you. Do you get what I'm saying? It slowly sunk into Naruto what was happening. Oh shit, he said simply before picking himself off the ground. I have to go, I have to get out of here. Oh shit, they're coming, they're going to kill me. I don't want to. He turned to face Kyuubi with panic plastered all over his face. You need take this seal off. I need the full power of the 9 tails if I'm going to take on all of the Biju. No, Kyuubi said immediately. The seal stays on. You go home, wait for me. Your friend Gaara is the closest to us and Ichibi no Shukaku will surely have told him about the situation. I'll find Gaara and see if I can defuse the situation. Now I wasn't exactly popular back when I was a Biju, so the chances are our meeting won't be pleasant. If they kill me the seal on you will vanish. If I die I want you to use all your power and kill them. Now go home. Naruto was shocked at what he had just heard. He tried to speak but the words didn't come to his mouth. Tsunade ushered Narumi away, giving Kyuubi one last glance. Tsunade couldn't believe it. Kyuubi was willing to die for Naruto. Was this the same Kyuubi who had attacked the village all those years ago?
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.